Talk 1017 FM. It's our home station up there. And in Madison, Talk 927 FM. And here in Chicago, WCPT 820. What do you think? Even FP, Foreign Policy Magazine, one of the most respected magazines in the world, is saying, hey, it's time to cancel the U.S. presidential campaign as we know it. There's even discussion that we will not have a Democratic convention this summer. I saw Tom Perez on CNN talking about the possibility of it yesterday. So, what do you think about that? What do you think about the primaries? More and more states are saying we're going to move the primaries a month away, 2 months away. It makes me uncomfortable, I have to tell you. It does. But how do you feel about this? I mean, increasingly, we are coming more and more under lockdown. Under lockdown. And tonight, when we do Let's Talk About It with Santita Jackson at Friends at 930 50th Street, it's going to be closed, everybody. We're going to go online. We're going to go online. We're going to go online out of an abundance of caution. Out of an abundance of caution. It'll just be us. So, because I want everyone to be safe. We don't know how the coronavirus is being spread, but we do know that there are more and more discussions about less and less that we will be able to do. Our governor, Governor Pritzker, said we're going to close down the restaurants except for takeout. So fewer and fewer of us will be able to congregate. How do you feel about that in this election season? As we've seen Bernie Sanders, for example, more than any other candidate and the president, have rallies with thousands and thousands and thousands of people. That's over. So how is that going to change the campaign? We saw the debate last night, which was great. But nobody was there. But it was a good debate because I felt that it was really a healthy discussion. So you let me know what you think. Please join me on Facebook on the Santita Jackson and Friends page, Santita Jackson and Friends, and on YouTube on the Santita Jackson Show. On the Santita Jackson and Friends page on Facebook, please like and share, like and share. Let's create some watch parties, everybody, and let's have a discussion about what's going on. And then let us on Facebook like and subscribe. Excuse me, on YouTube, like and subscribe, the Santita Jackson Show. And meet me on Twitter at SantitaJ. I want to know what you're thinking about all of this. Everybody, I'm about to put on my gloves. Yes, I used the sanitizer and then I touched something else. So, you don't know what to do. And I prefer washing my hands, quite frankly. Everybody, I would encourage you to do that. Wash your hands. The sanitizers really need the active ingredient of alcohol. And we talked to Dr. Damon Arnold, who is the former director of the Illinois Department of Public Health, and he is constantly gargling with Listerine because there's a high alcohol content. But so is Dr. Tishner's. Dr. Tishner's is so strong you have to cut it. I use that. It's 70% alcohol. And I use that in the morning now. And quite frankly, I gargle throughout the day because when you contract the virus, it rests in your throat. So you want to continue to keep, Devin, your throat clean and clear. You want to continue to do that. So some people use Listerine. I use Dr. Tishner's because it's so strong. But you have to cut Dr. Tishner's. If you're not careful with Dr. Tishner's, it will burn you, which is why I like it. Like it's true. Devin, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, Santita. How you doing this morning?
Great. Lady B's taking another rest day, and I'm so glad that she is because, many people don't know, and I've said this before, she, not only does she really help, she runs the station here. Whenever she really does run the station. Would you not agree?
I 100% agree.
She's the chief engineer here. And so she's got that. But she also has a daughter who has special needs. Beautiful young lady, about 26 years of age. And she needs her full-time care 24 hours a day, and she does do that. As soon as she leaves here, she's running to take care of her daughter and her mother who's ill. So she is like running. And so I'm glad that she's taking a couple of personal days, and I'm glad that the people here at WCPT allowed her to do it because she needs that. She needs that, and a lot of people need that, particularly now because we've got a real crisis. It's a national emergency, and I asked the question last week, what does a national emergency mean? And what we're beginning to see is a lockdown. Our social distancing. Well, that also, I knew that it was not going to stop at stay away from each other. What we were watching happen in Paris, they shut down all business until further notice. That happened this weekend. So I had some friends who were sitting in a restaurant in Paris, and they called me and said, "You'll never guess what happened." And they know I'm like the news wonk. They said, "You'll never guess what happened." The manager came to us and said, "Enjoy, enjoy, enjoy. But after you, you are the last. You are our last customers. Everything's being closed, everything." And we're beginning, and that's not what we're seeing in Chicago. And they say it's going to be for 2 weeks. We don't know how long this is going to last. We really do not know, because we're not even doing the testing of Americans that we need to do. The governor of Ohio made this estimation. There are 10 million people in Ohio. He said, okay, if you just take 1%, he said, I take it as a given that there are 100,000 people in Ohio who have the coronavirus. He said that this weekend. So, everybody, we're going to be talking with Pastor Paul Ruin about Daniel Ruin, excuse me, about he's from the Illinois Poor People's Campaign. Something that Marion Wright Edelman started with Dr. Martin Luther King. That was Dr. King's last big campaign, of course, before he went to Memphis to picket with the garbage workers. And he was actually going to occupy Washington, D.C. He was going to have a sit-in of all poor people on the mall in Washington, D.C. And so Dr. William Barber has picked that up. Reverend Jesse Jackson was the mayor of Resurrection City and even led a they went to the Senate lunchroom and he had everybody go in there and just get the food. He said, "Now let the taxpayers pay for it." That's how about that? I agree with that. So we're going to be talking about the coronavirus and its impact upon the poor. And because, we were about to have some food stamp cuts. You know that, Devin. While the coronavirus is actually this pandemic is saving people from that, thank heavens. And then at the bottom of the hour, we're going to have Brianna Gray. She is the Director of Communications for Bernie Sanders. She's going to talk to us about the debate. And then we will be talking about the possibility of canceling elections. You looked at me like it wasn't my idea. Okay, it's not, Devin. Close your mouth. The CDC, gatherings of 50 or more people should be canceled or postponed for the next 2 months, 8 weeks, everybody. What do you think about that? That's one of the headlines for the day. And then President Trump says relax. He's urging against hoarding in the grocery stores, as many grocery stores are limiting what you can buy. That's right. Grocers are eliminating purchases all over the country, all over the country. And some people are saying the cruise ship passengers who are being quarantined on these cruise ships, they say that they're lacking food and basic medical attention. Food not delivered to their rooms for more than 12 hours after their arrivals, no towels, one small bar of soap. That's right. Despite the constant reminders to wash your hands. That's right. And get this. Jeff Bezos, who owns Whole Foods, and he owns Whole Foods because he owns Amazon. Guess what? They want. Oh well, let me just read this from Common Dreams. It's stunning. They want workers to pay for their colleagues' sick leave. You can't make this up. Yeah. They could easily afford to pay hourly employees for sick days during the coronavirus outbreak without breaking the bank, according to this Common Dreams report. But team members, quote, who have a medical emergency or death in their immediate family can receive paid PTO hours, not only from team members in their own location, so your team members can donate their time to you, but also from team members across the country. Can you believe that? They're going to have the employees trade, I'll take your paid leave and you take mine. It's terrible. Oh, Governor Pritzker announced the closure of all Illinois bars and restaurants effective Monday. Effective Monday. So everybody in New York City, closing public schools. We're seeing that happen all over the country. That's 1.1 million students in one city. More than 100,000 of them are homeless. So how are they going to eat? In the meantime, Congressman Devin Nunes, a Republican from California, is telling people to go to their local pubs. And interestingly enough, African nations are turning the tables. We're always talking about the colonization of Africa, right? Well, they are now restricting U.S., European, and Chinese travelers. He said, no, we do not want this virus here. Oh, it's too much. You know what? We've got someone for whom I have a lot of respect. Um, Pastor Dan, Pastor Daniel Ruin from the Illinois Poor People's Campaign. Of course, we're watching Reverend William Barber lead this charge, and we're so excited to have you here with us today. Pastor Dan, how are you? Oh, I'm so glad that you're with us today. I'm so glad that you're with us. Tell me, and we're going to put the sound up in here so that everybody on Facebook can hear us. It seems to me that those people who are especially vulnerable, like the poor, are are really going to be hit very, very hard by the coronavirus. Would you not agree?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think one of the most important things to realize in this is the difference between causing and exposing. I read an article last night where the author was talking about how the coronavirus is not going to cause our healthcare to be compromised. It is exposing the fact that we already have a compromised healthcare system. It's not going to cause people to lose their incomes. It's going to expose the lack of paid leave in our country. It's not going to cause people to lose their homes. It's going to expose the fact that we have a country vulnerable to eviction. So I don't think it's going to cause the system to collapse. I think what it's doing is exposing a collapsing system. So I think the difference between cause and exposing is key in this discussion of poverty and the coronavirus.
Why do you think it's important to make that distinction? Because is it because we look at the poor as burdens, even though so many of the poor hold us up every day? I mean, most poor people work, Pastor Dan.
Yes, yes, amen, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you think of all of the people that, especially our religious institutions, are working with, and if you work closely with people, you realize their humanity, you realize their potential. I think about Septima Clark starting those citizenship schools back in South Carolina in the 50s and 60s, and how her great realization was that with the people she was working with on those islands had such skill and passion. And through those citizenship schools, she raised up people to take care of themselves, empower themselves, and be the new leaders of the movement. And I think that's exactly right, Ms. Jackson. People don't understand. We have to shift the moral narrative about poor people in this country.
Shifting the moral narrative. Do you think that this coronavirus pandemic is an opportunity for us to shift the narrative? I mean, because after all, I mean, look, people, we're so human. And we can be very self-centered, right? That is to say, we tend not to really understand it until it hits us ourselves, which is, the beauty of empathy, right? And when we hit it, it's because we have some memory of what happened to us at some point in our lives. Um, do you think this is an opportunity, and do you think we will seize the opportunity, moreover, to uh, to be more understanding of the poor, because many of us are going to be on the edge of poverty ourselves. I mean, if we don't get paid sick leave, if if they shut down, because increasingly things are being shut down because we've not tested enough. We don't know where the virus is. We just know that a lot of people have it, right? So, what do you think is going to happen here?
Well, I don't want to be naive about opportunities. I think it's important to put it into a category of what the people in power view as an opportunity, and what we as sort of normal people of conscience think of, an opportunity. I'm not saying certain people in power don't have a conscience. But what I mean by that is that, when 9/11 happened, the opportunity was seized by people in power to do mass surveillance. When Hurricane Katrina hit, people in power took that as license to put people in cages, and the situation, as we know, down in New Orleans was absolutely horrific. On the other hand, I wouldn't be a Christian pastor if I didn't believe in the fundamental goodness of all humanity, and that people are yearning. And I think you see this all over the place, how people are responding. But we have to be, we have to be vigilant in these times, that when emergencies are declared, often it's people in power who get to define the terms of those emergencies. People who are poor, they've been dealing with emergencies for decades.
Mm-hmm.
So I absolutely believe it's an opportunity for those of us who are involved in organizing and trying to lift up people who are affected by racism, poverty, the war economy, environmental devastation, and what we call the false moral narrative of religious nationalism. I think there are some important parallels to this. I think about how those World War I and World War II veterans came back, but African American veterans came back and realized some more was possible. So of course no one would have asked for World War I and World War II, but here these African American veterans came back and started organizing the Deep South for civil rights. And so here's this crisis that creates the opportunity in 1965 when the price of cotton plummeted. It created this opportunity for all of this great civil rights work where people had been struggling in Mississippi to then rush into this window because they had been working for so long, and they then seized that opportunity to create what we now know as the modern civil rights movement. So I do believe this is an opportunity, but we have to build numbers, we have to build power among effective voices in order to take it.
Well, a new kind of popular. Well, not new. I mean, because you know what? The race never stops. I think it's important for us to understand that, right? The race is ongoing. It's ongoing. People say back in the civil rights days, the civil rights movement never stopped. You just might not have gotten in it. But people have continued to fight. That's the only reason we are where we are today. People continue to fight. Barack Obama didn't pop up out the ground. Some people had to run. And I mean, Shirley Chisholm had to run. You had to have Julian Bond, who protested the Vietnam War, and then they would not seat him on the as a legislature in the state of Georgia. You had to have Reverend Jesse Jackson run. I mean, these and change all of the rules and make it very, very possible, not just possible, but feasible, and then inevitable, because all those things happen. So what about this discussion on poverty though? Because it seems to me that I think in a way, in a broad way, Senator Sanders is talking about poverty because most of us go into bankruptcy because of our medical bills and distributing wealth. I mean, in a way where personally, I think you can have millionaires and billionaires. I just don't think you should have impoverished people. Okay, I'm not gonna mess with them. I just want them to stop messing with the 99% of us. Help me. How are we gonna change this conversation?
Well, we're going to do it by continuing what you just said. We need a movement. It's movement time, as the Reverend Dr. William Barber and the Reverend Dr. Licio Harris say. It's movement time. It's time to lean on the ancestors that you just mentioned who have continued to struggle and say now is our time to pick up this torch. We had a Moral Congress in D.C. last summer. We had 1,400 activists from around the country, and we had a presidential forum, and in walks Joe Biden, then in walks Bernie Sanders, then in walks Kamala Harris. And they all committed to hosting a debate on poverty. Well, have we had a debate on poverty? No. Every now and then you'll hear candidate Sanders talking about 500,000 people are homeless, those sorts of things. But every time I listen to the politicians, I'm always listening for this issue of the interlocking injustices of poverty, racism, the war economy, environmental devastation. Because the great brilliance of Marian Wright Edelman and Dr. King and other people who created the Poor People's Campaign was they realized we needed a broad-based coalition working with poor white people, poor black people, poor Latinx people, now poor LGBTQ plus people, all people across the spectrum with their allies of conscience to build a broad-based national movement. So I'm not familiar if you're familiar with Erica Chenoweth. She's from the Harvard Kennedy School. She works on nonviolent civil disobedience. And she has come up with this figure of 3.5%. If you can get 3.5% of any population of a country mobilized on certain issues, you can change the country. And so in the United States, that would be about 11.5 million people, and you might balk at that, but that's only 3 times the size of the first Women's March. It is possible for us to work together across these broad-based categories and have vision and build this movement.
Would you say that poverty is the number one issue in America today?
Well, we like to talk about interlocking injustices of racism, poverty, the war economy, environmental devastation. So we believe they're all, related to one another. I think that's where it gets frustrating for a lot of activists who look at the Poor People's Campaign and say, why don't you just pick one issue like poverty or affordable housing or this? But unless we're willing to connect all these issues together and do what we call deep organizing, and again, I bring up the name of Septima Clark, who understood that you needed to form long-term relationships that were based on mutuality to build a strong enough movement like your father was involved in, like the civil rights movement, that can then sustain pressure on people in power to fight for people who are poor, but also people who are affected by all these other interlocking injustices. So I don't know that I would say it's the number one issue. I would say it's part of these interlocking injustices that are the number one issue.
So, election 2020, the coronavirus, as we look at intersectionality, what do you want people to know?
Well, I mean, as a Christian pastor, I want people to know that there is possibility in the power of faith and hope and love. I want people to be able to reframe the moral narrative, certainly about the poor. If you ask people around the country right now, what does the Bible say about the poor? They always quote Matthew 26, when Jesus says, you'll always have the poor with you, which is just astounding, Ms. Jackson, that all of the things that Jesus said about justice for the poor and God's preference for the poor, that would be the verse that gets cited. Why doesn't anybody cite Jesus in Luke 4 when he says, I've come to, bring good news to the poor and release to the captives? So I want our movement to be able to reframe the moral narrative about poverty in America and to question this. I think the coronavirus is clearly exposing the fact that this ideology of libertarian individualism is just rotten to the core. The coronavirus is proving we are all so dependent on one another. And so I really hope that as the election comes closer, that this does create an opportunity for us to look at one another with a lot more love, a lot more kindness, and recognize that justice must come much sooner than later.
Pastor Daniel Ruin, everybody. Illinois. Poor People's Campaign. Can't wait to have you back later in the week because we're going to have a more extended and more extensive conversation about poverty in America. Because everybody, this coronavirus pandemic is going to help us to see just how close to the edge of poverty many of us are. God bless you, Pastor Daniel Ruin of the Illinois Poor People's Campaign. Back in just a minute.
Hi, everybody. This is Santita Jackson. Join me on the Santita Jackson Show, Monday
And we come back up at what time?
6 to 8 a.m. morning.
We will be
on
back
WCPT
up
820, Chicago's Progressive Talk,
at,
where
second
facts
here,
matter.
33.
Okay, perfect.
30 years is also the difference in life expectancy between Inglewood, where I live, and the Mag Mile. Because
Did you
the
eat?
broken Medicaid funding system
Cortez, did you eat?
favors some
Yes, ma'am.
communities over
Okay.
others.
Thank
Make sure you eat.
Please call your state lawmakers and tell them to pass the fair funding for community hospitals so all of us can get the care we need. I don't want my life cut short. I want to watch my kid grow up.
Now, did you all get an estimate about how long it's going to take for that to download?
I'm checking right now because Nico said it wasn't working back there because it wasn't showing up as a device. It was showing up as like a mouse or a keyboard. So
Oh, wow.
what I'm gonna do is I'll try it in here and see if it works. Because first he said he needed the admin, then he was telling me it was that. So I guess we'll try it in here afterwards.
Okay.
Or worst thing to worst, actually what might be best is trying it in Matt's office to see he has the good computer.
Would you all?
Yeah, I might do that once we're done with the show or during the next break when I got more time.
Okay, great. That's perfect.
Yeah, so it's 7, I'll run around.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the
We'll
latest
see if it works
Chicago
in there.
traffic
Okay,
updates.
very good.
Wish I had wood to knock on somewhere.
On the outbound Eisenhower Expressway right now, traffic is starting to go from Austin to Des Plaines.
How are you all doing? You know I'm
Avenue.
about to have a
Crash
pretzel.
to the right shoulder. The 35-minute trip from downtown Chicago to 390.
And we got the next guest on the line.
Oh, Attorney Brianna Gray. Fantastic. Yay. Love her pieces. That's right. We're going to have, coming up, Attorney Brianna Gray. She's the Director of Communications for the Sanders for President campaign. Can't wait. Hey, Lorraine. Hey, is it D-Tray? I just want to make sure that I'm pronouncing your name correctly. You know, my name is Santita, so you know I am a little sensitive to that. But pardon me when I take my eating break. Ah, there's handsome Devin. Say hello, Devin.
Hello, everyone.
You know how it feels when you've saved enough for that long-awaited home edition? Now imagine an edition
Thank
on
you
that.
very much.
That's the feeling with Capital One, where a new savings account earns an interest rate 5 times the national average. That's right, 5 times, as represented by 5 times more seniors. This is banking reimagined. Capital One, what's in your wallet? Terms apply. Rate comparison based on FDIC national rate. Capital One NA member FDIC.
Yeah.
I've always been a fighter.
I came into this world.
This is going to get to be a lot more severe.
But I kept fighting every day
Oh.
to stay alive. The fight in me continued throughout my childhood and beyond. I always
I'll be clear on
wanted to
that.
make a positive difference.
They're doing a slow rollout.
Now I'm running for judge.
Well, anytime they can close down whole countries.
Deidre Bauman for Cook
Probably what they're
County
going to end up doing in the
Circuit
long
Court
run.
Judge
They can do
on
that
March
here.
17th, 2020. The voice for equal justice.
Punch 219, paid for by Deidre Bauman for judge.
Do you have a house or two flat you'd like to sell quickly? Then call URB Chicago. Get an immediate cash offer and receive
That's
your
what
check in
happened
as
here.
little as 7 days. No need to make
My
repairs,
friend.
no brokers or real estate commissions. Get a market-based, hassle-free cash offer on the spot. URBChicago.com is the area's oldest direct buyer of real estate. They buy as is, even properties that are boarded up, have tax liens or building code issues. Stop worrying about bad tenants, high payments, or even repairs you can't afford. If you own a house, apartment building, or even commercial real estate in rough condition, URBChicago.com gives you a fast way to sell at a fair market value. Call URB Chicago right now at 847-673-7575. That's 847-673-7575, or visit URBChicago.com.
Moving and eating better every day can help make
here we
you
go.
and your kids healthier.
Hmm?
Search
Come
We
back.
Can online to
Got
find
10.
out more. A message from the Ad Council, HHS, and NIH's We Can program.
Because facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. 1017 FM, Talk 1017 FM in Milwaukee. Good morning. Talk 92.7 FM, Madison. Good morning, WCPT 820 Chicago. Good morning, and everybody else all around the country. Good morning. We're streaming live on the Santita Jackson and Friends page on Facebook and on YouTube on the Santita Jackson Show. Now on Facebook, please like and share, create those watch parties, and on YouTube, like and subscribe. Call us at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT, so we can talk with Attorney Brianna Gray, also lovingly known as Bree Gray. Brilliant attorney. I first met her when she was a reporter at The Intercept, and now she's the Director of Communications for Sanders for President. Welcome to the show, Attorney Brianna Gray. How are you?
Very well. It's so nice to be back. I feel like it's been a really long time since we've had an opportunity to talk.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, that was, in my other life as a producer and co-host, but now this is my show, and I am so excited that you are here. I mean, look, you were a reporter, then now you are running communications for a major presidential campaign. So excited for you. Tell me.
Well, thank you.
Oh, no. Please, continue.
I just wanted to clarify that I'm the national press secretary for the Sanders campaign. That the head of our comms department is another person named Michael Casca. But it is truly an honor to be able to serve in this role and represent the campaign to the public. So thank you.
Well, tell me. Thank you so much for the correction. Well, let's go to the debate last night. What did you think about it? I mean, there was no audience, but it still seemed like it was a substantive debate, at least to me.
Yeah, I think it was perhaps the most substantive debate for two reasons. One was, I think, the lack of audience really made it so that people weren't playing to a crowd per se, but really speaking directly to the American people at home. And you got a kind of unfiltered, unvarnished, reflection of what each candidate really stood for. And I think the other thing that was really helpful was that this was our first one-on-one debate. And so remember in 2016, we had almost all one-on-one debates because the field narrowed so quickly. And this is the first opportunity a lot of voters will have had to directly contrast what Joe Biden and what Bernie Sanders actually stand for on the issues that Americans care about the most. And after that opportunity, when Bernie Sanders was able to ask Joe Biden repeatedly specific questions about his record on Social Security, his record on the Iraq War, his record on voting for trade deals, which sent so many millions of American jobs overseas, we saw again and again that Joe Biden just didn't have satisfying answers to why he found himself on the wrong side of history so many times. So I really look forward to Americans having more of an opportunity to really see Joe Biden's record stand on its own, as opposed to kind of giving him the benefit of the doubt, which is understandable given his close association with the Obama administration, which we all have so much respect for. But of course, he is a man with his own career that he has to stand for that lasted for decades before he became Barack Obama's VP.
What about the coronavirus? Because, of course, that's how we started this debate last night. Can you compare and contrast their positions and and what I guess how Medicare for all would mitigate this pandemic? I mean, it's a worldwide pandemic now. I don't know if we've ever been here in the modern age.
Yeah, it's really it's a scary moment. Made even scarier and more frustrating by the fact that when you listen to so much of the international coverage of this, when you listen to reports coming out of the BBC, there is a kind of surprise coming from them that America is having so much trouble dealing with this crisis. And part of the issue that America is having, that so many of our allies abroad are commenting on, is that we just don't have the infrastructure, the public health infrastructure in this country to really accommodate a crisis like this. And part of that is the fact that, as I'm sure you've been reading about, so many people, especially at the very start of this crisis, were reporting that although they felt that they had symptoms, although felt that they had been exposed and could trace the fact that they had either been traveling to China or had encountered someone who had already been confirmed to have the illness, that they were afraid to get tested because testing was costing anywhere between $1,300 and $4,000, people were reporting. One man reported a $4,000 bill after being quarantined after he and his daughter were both, his 3-year-old toddler were both exposed. And so you and I both know that we live in a country where 40% of Americans can't respond to a $400 emergency, right? 80% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. So if you're confronted with an issue like this, which is which is so important for people to get tested early and to not be afraid to get treated, to be able to pay for treatment, and yet we have a system where if you are fired, if you are unemployed, if you are laid off, like so many people are right now as a result of the coronavirus, if you are part of a community like ours, which persistently has higher than average unemployment rates, but you can't rely on employer-based insurance for healthcare costs. And so again and again and again, our country just isn't as prepared as others because we don't have a free at point of service universal healthcare system like every other similarly industrialized country in the world. And as a result, our response to this illness has been delayed. And so much of the infrastructure that we do have to treat people isn't being actually drawn upon because folks are just too afraid of the cost to get help.
We're talking with Brianna Gray, attorney Brianna Gray, who is the National Press Secretary for the Sanders for President campaign. And I want to ask you about the dysfunctionality that Senator Sanders really zeroed in on in not just our healthcare system, because he said we don't have a healthcare system. It's, you've got health insurance companies. Please explain.
Yeah, well, look, this country only has that kind of employer-based system because of some historical quirks of what was going on coming out of World War II. So there was a plan after World War II, as we were helping Europe to set up through the Marshall Plan to rebuild its economies after the war, to set up their national health insurance plans, for us to do the same thing. But when FDR passed away during his 4th term, those plans got markedly derailed. And because of the influence of the private insurance industry, the pharmaceutical industry, and at the time, the American Medical Association, who all had kind of financial interest in maintaining the status quo, America really became the only country not to say that healthcare shouldn't depend on whether you're rich or poor. If you have the awful misfortune, as so many of our families have experienced, of having a loved one with cancer or diabetes, your ability to afford insulin, your ability to get treatment shouldn't rely on whether or not you're affluent. You know, we are neighbors with Canada, where it costs 1/10 of the price for insulin as it does in this country. You know, and I don't know about you, but my family is from Cleveland, and I remember, you know, as a young person traveling there to visit my grandmother and my aunt and some of my extended family. And there were moments where we hopped off of the airplane and went straight to dialysis center after dialysis center, because that's where we could find my relatives. Everyone was suffering from complications from diabetes. So our community, in a lot of ways, knows more than others what it means to have to come up with that money for insulin payments, to juggle the cost of health care with the cost of long-term care, with the cost of getting to and from these healthcare facilities. You know, and I think it's really frustrating to have politician after politician come along and offer partial solutions to this, which they know their policies by design leave millions and millions of Americans behind. And we know in this country that has a long legacy of racism, anti-Black racism, that when people are left behind, that when there are people who are unemployed, when there's a gap between medical care and treatment between Black and white people, that it's going to be Black people that are left behind. And Joe Biden's health insurance plan, unfortunately, leaves 10 million Americans uninsured. And we know, again, given the racial disparities in this country, who disproportionately is going to be affected by those kinds of holes. And when you have a virus like this, that you need everybody to be protected, to keep the whole community protected, to keep it from spreading the way it is, leaving those kinds of gaps in insurance, it's not going to protect us in the way we need if something like this comes down the pike again.
What do you think we need to understand as I take the callers? 773-763 WCPT 773-763-9278, particularly now as we're looking at the national emergency. Attorney Brianna Gray, National Press Secretary for Senator Sanders, the Sanders for President campaign. What do you think? What is it? Because I felt Vice President Biden kind of turning. He said, basically we can really resolve this coronavirus issue, the monies that people will have to pay by legislation. I can do that in just in one fell swoop. I said, well, wait a minute. If we can, that's what I was hearing. If I didn't hear it correctly, please correct me. And
Yeah.
I said, is it really as easy as that? Really? Because I remember these people charging the Capitol when they were trying to pass ACA. There was almost a riot there. It was awful.
Yeah, that is exactly right. So what we've seen is that in this past week or so, even the Trump administration, right, across the ideological divide, there have been the same Republicans, the same kind of more conservative Democrats who have been saying we can't afford to have any relief for the millions of Americans suffering with student debt. We can't afford to have any kind of universal basic income to help people pay for their needs. We can't afford to help people with their housing needs. We can't afford to provide medical care for every American. We don't support, Medicare for all. Suddenly are saying, okay, this is an emergency. Donald Trump came up with $1.5 trillion earlier this week in an effort to stop the steep stock market drop-off that was the biggest stock market dip since 1987. And it had the effect of bolstering the stock market for all of 20 minutes. Now, that $1.5 trillion is almost as much as the $1.7 trillion that Bernie Sanders has said it will cost to cancel all student debt and pay for free public colleges and universities. So Joe Biden has been running this entire campaign saying we can't afford to have free public colleges and universities like every other industrialized country in the world. We just can't afford it. It's a pipe dream. It's pie in the sky, he says, pie in the sky. And overnight, when the circumstances change, the government is able to find almost the exact same amount to bail out the banks, right? So what Bernie Sanders has been saying throughout this campaign is that the country always manages to find money to pay for war. There's no hesitation to pay to bail out our financial industry. But whenever it comes to bailing out the homeowners who suffered in the 2008-2009 crisis, many of which were Black Americans who are still struggling to recover. Remember that Black people lost 40% of our collective worth, 40% in the housing crisis. You know, whenever
and never got it back. And never got it back.
Never got it back. And Bernie Sanders, and this is one of the points that came up in the debate last night, he wanted a bailout. But Bernie Sanders wanted a bailout of the American people as opposed to exclusively the banks. And that's why he did not vote for that bailout bill, right? He was pushing to have a bailout that actually took care of the fact that there were people who were exploited in the run-up to the financial crisis and that were not served in the out and then the fallout of the financial crisis. Whereas Joe Biden repeatedly, in part because of his relationship as a senator from Delaware, we all know that Delaware is the state where a majority of companies in this country are incorporated because of its incredibly financial industry friendly laws. Because of his relationships, has repeatedly looked out for Wall Street over the interests of Main Street and so many Black Americans in particular who, again, are always disproportionately hurt by these kinds of crises. So to your original question, the point that has been really revealed by this crisis is that the reason why we don't have a lot of the social programs that other countries have that would enormously benefit the most vulnerable people in this country isn't because of a lack of ability. It isn't because of a lack of money. It's because of a lack of political will and the fact that so many of our politicians have lobbyists on their campaigns and contributing to their campaigns that are keeping the interests of their donors, the donor class, front of mind while ignoring the really pressing needs of average working Americans.
$1.5 trillion that they did not ask for. That's $1.5 million. That's a trillion. $1 trillion is $1 million. I just want I want that to sink in.
Conceptualize it, absolutely.
It's just
absolutely.
It's a whole lot. We're talking with Attorney Brianna Gray, National Press Secretary for Senator Sanders, the Sanders for President campaign. Do you mind if we get at least a couple of calls in? Oh yeah. Let me go to you. Chaparral. What's on your mind?
Hey, Santita, thank you so much for taking my call this morning. I must say, I listened to the debates last night, and I was just astounded how Vice President Biden just kept saying, we don't want a revolution. We just want to take care of this coronavirus. I'm sitting up there like, no, Joe, we definitely want a revolution. I want a major revolution for the people. I'm sitting up here screaming at the TV like, who in the hell is he talking to? Because he's not talking to the American people. We are very clear on what we want. And what we're seeing is that our government consistently provides for the rich. Like you said the other day, they dropped $1.5 trillion into the economy, and without a debate,
into the markets. Let's be specific, not the economy, because we're the economy, right?
And you're right. And they didn't even blink an eye. But then you have this HR 6201 bill that has come out, and all the Democrats are saying, oh, it's the best that we can get for the American people. Well, is it the best? Giving only 20% of people in America coverage, leaving 80% uncovered? These are the things that, Brianna, that I need you to make sure Senator Sanders continues to stress. He tried to touch on that last night, but he needs to be firm on the fact that this bill, HR 6201, does not help the American people. And the thing is that it actually gives more coverage to corporations. And I hear Nancy Pelosi telling Americans, well, we're just hoping that the corporations will do what they're supposed to and pay the employees sick pay leave. You know that Nancy, they are not going to do that. We have wanted them to
right. Yeah.
and take care of the American people for years, and they have never cared a darn dime about the people. And what we're seeing is that everything that they're doing, they're trying to shore up the market, trying to help the rich stay rich, but they have not offered one thing for the average American citizen. And that pisses me off. I have 4 foster kids. Right now, I can't get milk or diapers because everything, the shelves are empty. Who's going to help me with these kids? I mean, this is the real reality of what's happening with the impact of this coronavirus. When you sit up here and you tell me I got to go out here and find food, first of all, do I have money? We talked about this, that the Americans do not have a $400 emergency expense, but we're sitting up here and have to buy toiletries, we have to buy extra food. They're telling us that we're going to be locked up for 8 weeks. Are they going to be dropping food supplies from the sky? Are they going to be dropping toiletries from the sky? Because in the hood, that is our reality. We are in food deserts. We are without medical coverage. And it's not just coronavirus. We're talking about blood pressure medicine, diabetes medicine. These are things that we need access to. So when Joe's talking about, oh, you don't have to worry about everything is going to be free. Everything for coronavirus. What about the rest of the illnesses that are going on in this country? What about getting medicine that I need an extra supply of insulin, or that I may need an extra supply of high blood pressure medicine, or anything that we may need to sustain us until these stores and everything recuperates. You're talking about one instance of coronavirus, but you're not dealing with the mass of illnesses that are going on in America. And so what I'm seeing, Santita, is that if they don't begin to address the issues of the poor, what is going to happen in this country is that the virus will spread because people are going to be forced to take care of their families. They're going to have to go. They don't have an option of staying home.
Well, I mean, no. I could say no. You've given Attorney Gray a lot to respond to and a lot to take back to this campaign. Attorney Gray, why don't you respond to Chaparral?
I think Chaparral is exactly right. Bernie Sanders' approach here is to understand that the coronavirus crisis is a crisis, but it's a crisis that is revealing the fundamental fragility of our system. Joe Biden's response to this crisis has been to see it as an outlier, something that reveals the vulnerabilities and the inadequacies of the Trump administration, but which doesn't understand that all of the problems that we just discussed are systemic, right? The issue isn't just, both Bernie Sanders and Biden have largely offered the same kind of response to this crisis in the moment. Both have said that testing needs to be free, that treatment needs to be free. Bernie has said that there needs to be a moratorium on evictions, which, goes a little farther than what Joe Biden has said. But on the whole, they both understand that there needs to be a kind of emergency response. But the difference is that Joe Biden thinks that, it's unconscionable. It's so horrible that people can't afford medical care for coronavirus, but not for diabetes, not for cancer, not for all the problems that have existed before and will exist after coronavirus, right? And so when the caller is talking about food deserts, when the caller is talking about how difficult it is in a moment where you have to stay home from work, where you might not be getting the same income as you were before to make ends meet, well, that's not just a coronavirus problem. That's why are 70-80% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck problem? Why is there such economic fragility in this country among our working people that a crisis like this has so much more extreme effects than it does in other countries when there isn't as much money to go around? So to her point, yes, this is a crisis that requires something like a revolution. And if that language is uncomfortable to folks, one, I think people have really not had the historical perspective of understanding how much our community in particular is the one that has driven revolution after revolution in this country to create basic equality. The only reason that America can even pretend to hold itself out as the land of the free is because our people have been on the front lines fighting for every kind of labor equality, from Philip A. Randolph and the Pullman car porters to racial equality in the civil rights movement and before and beyond. And we have to continue to have those kinds of fights for greater equality, because it's not clear to me that if we don't pick up the mantle, that other communities are going to fight for those issues that so often disproportionately affect us. I really appreciate the caller shining a spotlight on the extent to which we need something a lot more than just a return to the status quo under which so many people are suffering.
You know, I want you to have the final word. I've got less than a minute here. But, you know, that is what I hear. I hear the pain. I hear Chaparral. Chaparral is a regular caller. And I hear and I feel her pain. And I'm watching people who, with this coronavirus, the president said, okay, the copays, the insurance is going to take care of the copays. It's not true. They'll take care of the copays for the testing, but not for the treatment. And you can't even get tested anyway because you're not high profile. Got 30 seconds. They are yours.
People going to the polls on Tuesday or who are voting in upcoming contests, there is a real opportunity here. I think truly a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to nominate a candidate who is able and willing to pursue those initiatives that majorities of Americans actually want. Remember that 70% of Americans, including Republicans, support Medicare for all and know first and foremost intimately what a program like that would mean to their lives. Black women have more student debt than any other group, and Bernie is the only one talking about debt cancellation. He's the only candidate in this race who has a universal child care plan. We can live in a different country. We can live in a country just like all of our other similarly situated industrial nations. All we need is someone who is willing and able to fight for those things because he isn't taking corporate money. That person is Bernie Sanders. So I encourage you all to talk to your friends and family and make sure that we can really fulfill the promise of this revolution.
You got to come back. I'm going to get you back. Everybody, more of the Santita Jackson Show, just a minute. Okay.
At Fisher Investments, we do things differently
in the program.
than other money managers.
Dr. Damon Arnold, I'm going to give you his number, former Illinois Department.
But it may not work for your clients.
So Dr. Damon Arnold?
I'm going to give you his number. He's a former director of our Illinois Department of Public Health.
What do you provide? Cookie cutter portfolios like the rest of us?
No cookie cutter portfolios here. Fisher Investments tailors portfolios to meet each client's goals and needs.
But you do sell investments.
I just want him to give us an
right?
update.
And make commissions when you make trades for your clients.
He just sent me a text.
Fisher Investments doesn't sell any commission investment products, and we never earn commissions on trades.
So what's in it for you?
Fisher Investments fees are structured so we do better when our clients do better. When it comes to helping clients achieve a comfortable retirement, we're clearly different. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you switch to us.
I'll give you his number
Fisher
right
Investments,
now.
Clearly different.
Give me so I can write it down.
Say goodbye
Oh no, I got the pen.
Oh, need the pen. It's right next to his name. I scribbled at the bottom there.
No worries.
For more info. Uh-oh, better get makeup.
Okay, and he's only going to be on for the first 5 minutes.
Okay.
But I want to get him on.
This is AP News. I'm Rita Foley.
Okay, was he able to work that out or no?
No, he said he wasn't able to, so I'm going to see if I can try it in Matt's office, because I know Matt's got the better computer. If not, I'll try it in here. And if not, I'm hoping we don't get to that point.
I'm hoping not.
Yeah, because he said he needed the administrator, then he said it wasn't working as a device, it was showing up as a keyboard. I'm like, that's weird.
Does he know exactly how to do that?
I think he knows it better than I do, because he's our computer tech guy here.
Okay.
So that's why I'm like, yeah, so that's my whole...
Okay, well, he's going to be on at the top.
Alright, I'm going to give him a call right now.
Yep. Because, you know, we have no, what is it? No baseball scores, no basketball scores, no.
No hockey, no sports.
None of that. That's over for now.
The worst is yet ahead. Tony Fauci, the nation's top infectious disease expert, said he backs a
Hi, Dr. Damon?
Dr. Arnold.
Oh.
Yeah, that's
This
okay.
is Devin with Santita Jackson. How you doing today?
The virus has killed more than 5 dozen people in the U.S.
Got any questions for we go in the air?
It causes only mild or moderate
Okay, we'll put you on hold. Here's the commercials, and Santita will cue you when it's time to go, okay? Alright, thank you. Stand
The
by.
Fed is announcing emergency action to help the economy.
We reduced the target range
Let
for
me
our
press on for
policy
years.
interest rates by 1 percentage point.
In a conference call with reporters, Chairman Jerome Powell said the Fed will also buy $700 billion in Treasury and mortgage bonds and ease bank rules.
To support the flow of credit to households and businesses.
Reason?
The virus presents significant economic challenges.
President Trump had this reaction at the White House.
We're very happy. I have to say this. I'm very happy.
Ben Thomas, Washington.
This is AP News. Jackie Quinn drills down now on what one state is doing to fight the coronavirus.
Illinois' governor is heeding a warning from federal health officials who say Americans really need to hunker down more to help slow the spread of the coronavirus, to not overwhelm the medical system.
Okay, how are things going okay over there?
Major steps to keep people home.
Are things going okay over there? Okay, very good.
I've been checking back and forth for Facebook and YouTube.
Okay.
I share it on every social media, including Twitter.
Hmm? What you say?
No, I said I shared it on all my social media.
Oh, okay. Well, that's great. That's great. And she was, wasn't she great?
You can use Clorox wipes to clean your phone, but start
What
by
you need
turning
to
off
do.
your phone, say the experts. I'm
I just
Rita
use
Foley,
pure alcohol. Because that's the active ingredient you need, which is why I use Dr. Tishner's. Because Dr. Tishner's 70% alcohol, and you have to cut it in order to use it, because you can't use it uncut. It's too strong. But you rinse the back of your throat out.
On Chicago South.
Okay. So how's everybody today? Hope you all are doing well. Hope you're doing well. And I tell you what, out of an abundance of caution for the rest of, well, for the foreseeable future, I'm going to be doing the show from my home. Because I think I want to lead by example, and I think it's important that we all be safe. And that's very, very important, everybody. So tomorrow you will see me, and I will be at home. So be getting up early. So there's that. Will not be in my pajamas. Will not do that. No. You know, when I'm up, I get up. And I think it's important. And just as you go to work, it's important to stay in the rhythm of working. It's important to get up, get ready, and go to work. Don't ever get into the space where you are in your pajamas all day. Don't ever do that. That's not a good thing. Always be in the mind of working. That way God can work with you. When you collapse, that's a no-no. Always stay in the mind of working. Always continue to work. Always have something that you are doing and have a goal that you are working toward. Always do that. There's some static in the line now. Okay, thank you. I'm hearing that there is some static.
You're getting static?
Okay, you all let me know what do you think it is?
From where?
So I'm not hearing anything in the headphones.
Okay, let me ask you all this. Can you all hear, do you hear static now? Let me know. Can you hear us now?
Is it from Facebook they hear static?
I don't know. That's why I just removed this.
That'll cover it. New battery, Patworthy.
Can you hear us now?
Filter. Then adding on wiper blades and headlamps just to break $25. Chase approved. So get what you need and a free Chase Elliott hat. Quality parts, helpful people. That's Napa Know-How. Napa Know-How. At participating Napa Auto Parts stores while supplies last. Offer ends 3/31/20.
Hello, hello, everybody. Let me know. Can you hear us now? But it's low in volume. Okay.
For these families with United Way to make the community stronger. I don't just
I'm back in 40.
Let me do that. Okay. But it's low in volume. No static, but too low in volume.
This is the sound of
How is it now, Lorraine? It's better, but no static. How is it now?
And it looks like Mom just put the tomatoes and onions on there too.
Okay, no, let me know. Is it okay now? You can hear us, but we're very low.
Is it still very low?
Yeah, it's still very low. It's still very low? It's great now? Okay. All right, good.
Invite you to the family reunion every Sunday. 4 to 6 p.m. for conversations like you'd have at a family barbecue. And you never know who's going to drop by on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Wake up, Chicago. This is the
Great.
Santita
Thank you, Michael
Jackson
Ann.
Show.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. Got Mateo. No, Mateo's not here today. It's you, Cortez. Told you when you get older, you start fusing names. And Devin. And is Nikos on the other side?
Yes.
Hey. Got all my guys in here today. But I think I hear a little bit of static. We're going to work all of that out. And want you to call us at 773-763-WCPT, 773-763-9278. More and more of America is on lockdown. How is that making you feel? Do you feel safer? Or do you feel a little bit of trepidation, everybody? Hello, Milwaukee. Talk 1017 FM. You're going to have a high of 40 degrees, 41 degrees today. 42 degrees. It's going to be cloudy, though. And then Talk 92.7 FM in Madison, Wisconsin. You're going to have a high of 42 degrees. It's cloudy in Chicago. Partly cloudy. A little bit sunny today. A high of 41 degrees, everybody, on WCPT 820. In this hour, we're going to be talking about how the coronavirus is impacting our politics. I know we've been talking about that for the past few days, but I came across an article in Foreign Policy, one of the world's top policy magazines. And the headline was, "It's time to cancel the U.S. presidential campaign as we know it." Yeah, I tweeted it out. What? Is it time? And then you're seeing New York officials are delaying the April primary election. And could the election be postponed? That's a New York Times article. And on and on and on. Louisiana and Georgia have canceled elections. I don't know. They said they haven't been canceled, but they have been postponed. So what do you think about that? But first up, we've got the former director of our Illinois Department of Public Health. Indeed, he's one of the nation's foremost experts on public health. The brilliant Dr. Damon Arnold. He's giving us an update on where we are and what we are doing. Let's bring up Dr. Damon Arnold, our health expert on this show. How are you? Help me. Where are we? What are we doing? We're watching more and more cities and states really shut down. I mean, businesses are not open. I mean, is this a good idea? And what I want to do is have you talk to us for a few minutes about what we can do to be empowered, because I don't want us to panic and be scared, Dr. Arnold.
Yes, absolutely. With little sleep, I feel wide awake this morning. We've been very busy, in the healthcare field, both, at the state level, and I've been working with some people in the state to ensure that things are being done in a good way. But I think we have to applaud Dr. Ziki and also the governor for taking the actions they are taking. It's better to be overly cautious than underly cautious. And if you don't respond and look at the things, the situational awareness about things that are happening around you, you don't want to have alarm, but you don't want to be holding back on steps that you could take, proactive steps to protect people. So currently, as of yesterday, we had a total of people, under investigation. That's people who are believed to be having the COVID or coronavirus disease, having been infected by the SARS-CoV-2 virus. And so yesterday we had about 1,025 people who fell into that category, with 93 total being confirmed and 932 turning up to be negative for the virus when they were tested. Yesterday also some steps were taken by the governor, and these were very wise steps. 13 of the 102 Illinois counties now have reported COVID-19 cases. This includes, as of yesterday, the counties of Champaign, Winnebago, Sangamon, Clinton, and Whiteside. And the Illinois Department of Health recommended gatherings of no more than 10 people. This was actually followed later by the CDC releasing information right before the debate last night, where the CDC recommends that for the next 8 weeks, organizers cancel or postpone in-person events that consist of 50 people or more throughout the United States. So we were ahead of the curve, I think, as a state in making sure that we protected people early on. And as the governor had mentioned in his talk, all bars and restaurants will be closed starting midnight tonight. This is the 16th of March, and they will remain closed at this point until the 30th of March. And the reason why is that he found that people were actually going to bars and congregating in areas that he felt were a threat to the general public. So as small groups get together, they have the ability to potentially share a virus that's circulating and then go back out into multiple points throughout the state, which becomes counterproductive in trying to contain this virus. So it was a wise step that he took. He actually had the Sam Toya, who's the president of the Illinois Restaurant Association, with him. And it looks like he's working in concert with those people who really need to be on the page to make sure that we protect the people here. You know, the TSA is understaffed out here as well. And we know that all these schools are closing, that people are coming back into the state. And so the governor had to step in. Unfortunately, the federal partners don't seem that they had supported or alerted him to some of the things that were going on there. But he did take action as soon as he found out that this was going on. The James R. Thompson Center will be closed for people who do not have state business starting tomorrow. That's this morning. And then also food access for children in schools will be provided starting Tuesday, the 17th of March. There are 8 major food depositories that are participating in this to help out with the distribution of food.
Your final thought. What do you want us to know? Because I just throughout, as we really course through this crisis, number one, I want to thank you for giving us access to you, because I don't think that anyone should take for granted that this is the former director of our Illinois Department of Public Health. And this is one of the world's foremost experts on public health. And he's also a veteran, and he's a practicing physician. And so I want to thank you for giving us access, because he's been meeting all day, all night, as they seek to institute new protocols, because we've not been here before, at least not in the modern age, and certainly not in the United States. In about a minute, what should we do every day, Dr. Arnold, so that we will not panic, so that we will feel empowered? There are lots of little things that you've told me personally that I've started to put into effect. You know, I use Dr. Tishner's and Listerine to gargle. Please just, really, it makes me feel better, because I'm like, wait a minute, I am disinfecting my throat. So what should we be doing?
I mean, the first thing to do is to empower yourself to take care of yourself. And one of the ways is actually to, when I get home, what I personally do is to wash my hands first for at least 20 seconds. And you can actually say the 23rd Psalm if you want to, or sing Jingle Bells, a couple of times to pass the time. But make sure that you spend at least 20 to 30 seconds washing your hands. Then I wash my face. And why do I wash my face? It's because we touch our face at least 23 times a day, and sometimes more. And our face is really the place, our eyes, our nostrils, and our mouth is where this virus enters. So washing your face when you get home, because you may have been touching environmental surfaces without really realizing that you're transferring things to your facial region. And then, so I wash my hands, and I wash my face, and then I wash my hands again. And I may blow my nose, wipe out the pits in the front of the nose, before I wash my face and wash my hands. And discard that, get rid of it, put it in the trash receptacle, or flush it away. And then also, I have a tendency to use some Listerine, as you were mentioning, just to gargle a little bit, to decrease the likelihood that I am retaining viruses in the back of my throat. Also, make sure you eat well. And if you have people who are ill, make sure that they wear a mask so they don't spread that to other people or minimize the chance of spread by containing the droplets. But wearing a mask is really not that. It's not useful. Actually, you may increase your risk because with a mask you'll try to adjust it multiple times, and you keep touching your face, which again I mentioned before is the place where things enter the body.
Hmm. Dr. Damon Arnold, everybody, the former director of our Illinois Department of Public Health. I cannot wait to have you back on the show in the next few days because this story continues to evolve. I never would have thought that in Chicago our restaurants would be closing, but you know, of course.
One thing is that social distancing does not mean social disconnection or social abandonment. We need to stay in contact. We are living in an age where we do have technology, telemedicine, many things. I know that Blue Cross Blue Shield has a telemedicine they've released, and they also have covered testing. So there are things out there people are doing to support you. Make sure that you take advantage of them, and make sure that you stay in contact with your loved ones. If you have a person who is a senior citizen next door, what we're finding out, this is a predilection for people who are 60 years old or older as far as the worst consequences. So make sure that you stay in contact with your senior citizens and the people that you love and your families and your friends and your neighbors, and help them out. So maybe if you're really young, you go and pick up food for them, and help them out so that they don't have to go out into the general public and be potentially exposed. So there's many things that we could be doing to help one another. And if you're sick, don't go and visit your family, your family members who are older, or anyone else. Actually, you should be containing yourself. But those things are risk factors, and those people who have chronic medical conditions in hospital settings. Make sure that you are cognizant that you can actually adversely affect them by going into a doctor's office without calling first and sitting next to someone who's a senior citizen. That could really be, a death blow to them if you are sick. So those are some of the things, just being compassionate and being, cautionary and making sure that you are taking care of yourself and those people around you.
Dr. Damon Arnold, everybody, former Illinois Department Director of Public Health. That's right. Stay away, get well, everybody. Just get well, be well. Blessings to you, Dr. Arnold. Can't wait to have you back. It'll be in the next couple of days. Trust and believe.
And thank you for spreading the message, Santita. Your show is actually helping so many people, thousands of people, millions of people in our nation. So make sure that you continue doing your job, and we really appreciate, and your support is immeasurable of the miracles that's creating people's lives.
Oh, blessings to you. I feel the same way about you. I just thank you for your service. Blessings, 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 Dr. Damon Arnold, everybody. And we're going to be continuing to talk and give you updates about what you can do to be empowered, because we don't want you to panic. You can be empowered. Everybody who gets the coronavirus, it's not a death sentence, everybody. It's not a death sentence. More than 50,000 people have recovered. More than 50,000 people have recovered. So I want you to keep that in mind. You know what? I came across this article, and I said, you know what? I've got to gather a panel to talk about this, because this is just really stunning. Foreign Policy magazine is one of the world's foremost foreign policy magazines. You'll have leading economists, political thinkers, world leaders who write opinion columns, and they just start talking about policy in Foreign Policy. So I was struck when an opinion piece said the following. The headline is, "It's time to cancel the U.S. presidential campaign as we know it." What do you think about that? Now, this was written by Laurie Garrett, who's a former senior fellow for global health at the Council on Foreign Relations, and she's a Pulitzer Prize-winning science writer. Now, mind you, the Council on Foreign Relations is one of the world's leading organizations. I mean, a lot of world leaders are members of the CFR. And so she wrote, "Let's get serious, America. It's time to ask, during a plague, whether, if so, in what form democracy can continue as usual. The answer is likely to be disappointing. For the first time in the country's history, in America's history, the United States must contemplate canceling the Democratic and Republican national conventions and campaign rallies and give serious consideration to arranging ways of organizing election day that don't require in-person voting. What do you think about that? What do you think as I'm clearing my throat? What do you think about that? Everybody? So let me bring up, this wonderful panel. We're going to move attorneys. Well, we're going to keep C.K. Hoffler there until we go to the break. And so let's just bring everybody up. And then we'll move her down to the bottom. When you're in the wonderful world of radio, a lot of things happen. Live, it's okay. So let's lock all of our, let's lock in all of our guests. And let's just talk. Let's talk. Let me start with you, Latasha Brown. Everybody, you get about a minute apiece, a little bit more than that. What do you make of this? It's time to cancel the U.S. presidential campaign as we know it. Now, mind you, Latasha from Black Voters Matter, this doesn't sound as crazy as it might sound because the New York Times, wait a minute, there's an opinion piece by Alexander Burns. Could the 2020 election be postponed? Only with great difficulty. Here's why. So it's out there. Then what happens if, this is from BuzzFeed News, what happens if President Trump tries to cancel the election because of the coronavirus? Louisiana and Georgia have postponed their elections, and on and on and on. So this is not crazy, Latasha Brown from Black Voters Matter. Come on.
No, it's not crazy, but I do think that it will be quite convenient for some. I think that if we were operating in a certain kind of, before I talk, before I say even answer that, I just want to wish everybody stay safe and be well. Yes. First and foremost, on mind and spirit is people to be safe and well and stay well. But I think that part of even the challenge, I certainly believe that we're in a part of our history that we really got to figure out how we can execute elections much better. Secondly, though, I think that to start off saying let's cancel the elections without literally, I haven't heard anybody say let's cancel the stock market. Right? I'm not.
Oh, okay, that's rich.
So I think that if you don't have to cancel, if you're the wealthiest country in the world, we've got top technology, and we've got an election that is months away. We're like 9 months away that we can actually figure this out. This country has the resources and the capacity to figure out how we can literally have an election. My concern around this is this falls in line with what we've been hearing all along. That there's always been concern around Trump. I mean, he said it, that he wants to stay in this office in perpetuity. And so I just think that when we start having people who have not been good actors, so we're looking at Georgia, we're looking at Louisiana, what we know is particularly in Georgia where we got a governor who has not been a good actor. There's nothing about him that's been around protecting democracy so far. Matter of fact, he's been an enemy of democracy, right? And so to now, for those people to start dictating what is going to protect democracy, I would say that it is suspect at best. So we really got to, we as a community, we as voters, as people, have to demand that our government, addresses these issues and including democracy. Democracy doesn't stop. Just the way that we vote should shift. The way that I always say that if a satellite can see the ocean, millions of miles away, why haven't we found easy access to the ballot? This is the moment for us to really be talking about how community and how voters can have easy and access to the ballot. That, instead of canceling the election, I think that's very problematic.
I heard that. Let me go to you, Dwight McKee. What do you think?
Well, the American, Miranda Conway book, and in the book she talks about how the American imperialism uses to expand always. Where they create a crisis and then manipulate the crisis, bring the American people into the crisis, and use that crisis to usurp whatever resource, whatever country, whatever right that they're trying to take advantage of at the time. I'm always very suspect when I see the coalition between new legislation, crisis legislation, and crises. I watch Bush do that with the war in Iraq, where they manipulated a pretext for a crisis, and then use it as an excuse to bomb and ravage the country. We watched it in Vietnam with the Tonkin Resolution, where they created this mystical ship that was bombed and used it as a pretext to span the Vietnam War. It almost makes you question if the whole viral crisis is not a pretext to manipulate the next election and to make sure that Trump, who is, like you said a minute ago, feels that he is an imperial president, has the right to neutralize all future elections and just based on martial law declare himself president for life. It really makes you suspect.
It kind of makes you wonder. That's why we brought this up today, and we have a magnificent panel. You just heard Dwight McKee, noted social scientist, and Latasha Brown, Ms. Latasha Brown, at Ms. Latasha Brown on Twitter, Black Voters Matter, and civil rights attorney and labor attorney, Attorney Robert Patillo out of Atlanta, and last but certainly not least, the president-elect of the National Bar Association. Boy, I have a wonderful panel in you guys. That's right. Attorney C.K. Hoffler. She's the president-elect of the National Bar Association, which is the largest and oldest black bar association in the world. Somewhere between the four of these great minds, we're going to figure this out. Because I want to know if you think that's where we're heading. I mean, if Louisiana and Georgia are going to, okay, Buzz Esquire, they didn't cancel the elections. They're postponing them. How does that impact the election itself? I mean, we're just finding out like 2 weeks later that Bernie Sanders actually won California and we knew he was going to win. But, he was denied that night. Hey, I've won the biggest prize in electoral politics. What's going to happen, everybody? Do you think that we're going to use this as a reason to not vote? Back in a minute.
It's time for reparations.
You know what that
Since the
bleeding
early
is? That
1600s,
happens to us every now and then, particularly since we started doing all of this.
Yeah, I talked to Matt, and he said what we can try is switching the boxes over, because that's a technician problem in Jimmy's area.
No, don't worry about it. I'm fine.
Okay.
As long as they're not hearing it, I'm good.
Yeah, it's not on the air, because I asked him about it. He said it's a Jim problem, all the switches are
Okay. As long as they're not hearing it, I'm okay.
Join me by supporting this bill and call your alderman and state representative.
Paid for by drwilliewilsonfoundation.org.
Hi, I'm Dr. Willie Wilson. Reparation for the descendant of slaves will address the uneven development of the middle class that has been shut out of the American dream. This bill will give families the opportunity for education and building wealth to pass down and lowering the crime rate. This bill will lift up by giving those held back by education discrimination and lack of opportunity. Please call your local and state representative.
Paid for by drwilliewilsonfoundation.org.
Did you know you can listen to WCPT stream via their website, TuneIn Radio, iTunes, and Windows Media? Click the Listen Live tab at WCPT820.com.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago traffic update.
Traffic is generally light, but we have some issues at Elmhurst. There's a crash on 83 at Lake Street. We have delays on the Eisenhower Expressway. An outbound crash at Des Plaines Avenue has cleared. Still heavy outbound central to Des Plaines Avenue.
Vicky's buying a $3 bagel.
Downtown
What?
Chicago to 390. Inbound, it is 42 minutes. Delays Manheim to Des Plaines and Cicero past Damon. The 8 is fine. Inbound Kennedy. Delays start at Nagel, 26 minutes. O'Hare to downtown. Outbound 20. The exit Canfield now closed to construction. Inbound Stevenson delays start at Central.
Joyce, I hear you. All they did was praise Biden.
Ryan 19
I guess because he didn't faint. He won. Are you kidding me? Is a bar that low?
I'm Jim Calamone.
30 years is a long time.
I'm 30 and
Hey,
just had
Mo
my first
Forte,
child.
hello.
30 years is also the difference in life expectancy between Inglewood, where I live, and the Mag Mile, because a broken Medicaid funding system favors some communities over others. Please call your state lawmakers and tell them to pass the Fair Funding for Community Hospitals bill so all of us can get the care we need. I don't want my life cut short. I want to watch my kid grow up.
A message from SEIU Healthcare Illinois.
Hey, it's Brock from Hero Power.
Are we gonna have to go down
the
to
environment like me? You only want to support clean energy
to
when you
Matt's
pay your
office?
electricity bill.
I said it. I was getting ready to set up, and here the time wasn't on my side, so I'm waiting till after the show.
Okay.
Because I'm
Does
like,
someone else have to be here in the next few hours, though?
Sorry, what?
It doesn't Joan does is in here, right?
Yeah, but she gets here at 2. I don't think it'll take us that long. I hope not.
Consumption. Other electricity suppliers may say they offer clean energy, but lack the
thing is, I think the monitor for the tower of this computer is behind this thing that's all screwed up, and I don't have the tools
And you can join
on me is the whole issue, so that's why I try Matt's. If not, I'll call and be like, hey, is it there, or is it back over there? And I might just forget.
More than the comment rate.
Actually, now's the time to check.
WCPT listeners can get a $25 credit off their first bill.
I know we got
Join
one
today
here.
at
Is this the master, or is this just for these?
Be careful, honey.
Oh, I'm just looking, is all. I'm not touching yet.
No, I'm just saying, I just hate to see you up under here like that.
WCPT.
So what was that?
I hate to see you up under here like that.
Indeed has solutions like online skills
Oh yeah, I'm
tests,
fine.
which let a candidate
Yeah,
show
just
that
get
they're
down
the
there to
right
make
hire.
sure.
Indeed
no, I'm
will also
just,
give
you
you
know.
the sticky frog, which will suddenly
Always.
read and stick to the face of the perfect hire.
Be
Okay,
careful.
there's no sticky
Oh.
frog.
Right.
But skills
What's
tests,
that?
that's for sure. See why independent research by Silk Road shows Indeed delivers 3 times more hires than any other job site. Visit Indeed.com/promo today and get a free sponsored job upgrade on your first posting. Terms, conditions, and exclusions apply.
My name is Dale Pazinski. I volunteer with United Way to help the homeless in my community learn computer skills and build a basic resume. I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer, Live United. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show, talking about these elections. You know, look, we're watching businesses close. Paris is closed of all places. And the whole country of Italy is closed down. Closed down for business, everybody. Closed down for business. You know, social distancing means you can't be next to somebody. And we saw, but interestingly enough, we saw thousands of people trying to get through O'Hare alone. And they were jammed up together in these close spaces. It seems like it was a big fail on the part of the federal government, because that's not Chicago's jurisdiction. That is, when you come in internationally, that's the federal government. Whew. But in the meantime, you know, because we're still not testing adequately, even the governor of Ohio said there are 10 million people here. I'm just taking it as a given that 100,000 people in the state of Ohio, just 1%, at least 1%, have the coronavirus. Can you imagine? Now multiply that 50 times. Well, 35 times, since we're about 350 million people. That's a lot of folks. That's a lot of folks. That's 3.5 million people if you just take 1% of America. That's a lot. That's a lot. So, people are saying that, you know, okay, you know, we're typically in line when we're voting. That's not social distancing. It's not enough. So, should we just... Lori Garrett from the Council on Foreign Relations says that it's time to cancel the U.S. presidential campaign as we know it. Would that make you feel good? Look, I like these campaign rallies. Attorney C.K. Hoffler, president-elect of the National Bar Association, and Attorney Robert Patillo, labor and civil rights lawyer, and Latasha Brown, who we just heard from, and Dwight McKee. Starting with you, Attorney Hoffler, before we go to these callers, and you, Attorney Patillo. Attorney Hoffler, what do you make of this? It's time to cancel the U.S. presidential campaign as we know it. Wait a minute. No conventions for the Republicans and the Democrats, right? No in-person voting. Does that make you feel comfortable?
No. Good morning, Santita. How are you today? And thank you so much for providing this forum. I agree with one of the previous callers in the last segment that it is so important for you to continue to provide this platform. You do help hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people to navigate during this difficult time. So I've got to say, this business about canceling the elections, I feel is that we've got to be talking about another country. We are a high-tech, highly fast-speed, high-internet country and world, and we can do so many things rapidly. We can fix so many things, but we simply, for some reason, can't seem to do an election. We just can't seem to do an election. And I live here in the state of Georgia. For the state of Georgia and a battleground state, and what happens in Georgia usually happens in Florida, so I anticipate that this is going to happen elsewhere. For the state of Georgia to postpone its primary elections, I think, is very, very politically motivated. On the one hand, absolutely, we must take the health and safety of our citizens and put them in first place. We must prioritize that. I have to believe that with the elections are not new in this country. Elections are not new in Georgia. Admittedly, when Stacey Abrams ran, we felt like we had stepped back maybe 100 years in terms of how we processed those elections. But the reality is, elections are not new. So for us here in Georgia to not be able to mobilize the necessary equipment, the necessary technology, the necessary manpower to be able to put into place an election process for the citizens that is fair, just, transparent, and with integrity does not is not acceptable to me. I think that that only benefits our president. And the reason why I say that is this. If people are so afraid to go out and vote, because, and when you do cancel elections, that's what you're conveying, a sense of fear. That we can't operate, there's nothing that we can do, and we don't have in place mechanisms for us to resume and to do one of the most important things that a U.S. citizen can do is there are two things. You can vote, and you can serve on jury duty, and you can serve this country. When we can't get one of those things, so that's three things, and certainly there are many, many other things, but when the government doesn't have a plan in place to allow that to happen, it creates pandemonium on so many levels. So that means we push out Georgia, so we couldn't possibly, if we got the election in May, because of all of the delays and the problems with these new systems that they hadn't even figured out, there's no way that we'd be able to have an election, a national election, in November. And so what does that mean? That means if there's a delay with that, the current sitting president will remain in office. That's the only way I believe it can be. I haven't looked at the constitutional parameters for that. We're in uncharted waters, and I know that there are courts that are looking at this. But that's how I see it. And sitting here in Georgia, yes, everybody feels terrible. Everybody is impacted by the coronavirus. But to cancel the elections and to not have in place a system that the citizens here can rely on and know is simply unacceptable. And I don't believe that it takes that long to do it if we are dedicating the resources to do that. Because ultimately, the powers to be, we've got a Republican governor, and it is, and certainly in the best interest of the Republican Party, to delay, because that means that their candidate will be in office maybe until 2021, 22, 23, or how about this? Maybe he won't be able to because we don't have the system in place. We won't be able to have an election. And that is not acceptable. So I feel that this is not a good development. I know there's a better way, there are better systems. And in the most sophisticated, highly industrialized country in the world and on the universe, we can do better.
We sure are efficient at imprisoning people. I think whew. I mean, Attorney Robert Patillo, yes.
I don't mean to say things, but that's an excellent point. So we can privatize this. Right now, businesses are suffering. Small businesses, mid-sized businesses. If we need to, if we have to, why couldn't we privatize the prison systems because they said they were so inefficient? We can get people in jail and make sure that they stay there for life, whether they should be there or not. So why can't we take other measures to ensure that people's right to vote is protected in this country?
Attorney Robert Patillo, should we cancel the U.S. presidential campaign as we know it?
I don't think cancel, but I do think we have to bring the primary to an end tomorrow. And let me explain why I say that. Because if the Democrats are able to settle on a candidate tomorrow, a nominee tomorrow, that means we don't have to expose poll workers in the remainder states on March the 24th and on April the 11th to crowds of people. We don't have to put it into the hands of various Confederate state governors when and how they will hold elections. And also, it means that the nation can start ramping up for November starting tomorrow. I do believe that if states focus on mail-in ballots literally starting tomorrow evening or Wednesday morning, and we start putting together the legislative infrastructure, because many states are still in session right now, where they will be able to pass laws and make electoral changes as necessary. I think we can put the infrastructure in place to do a completely mail-in election in November rather. However, if we keep this battle going in the primary and we take this into the end of May when the Democratic primary in Georgia has been rescheduled for, and we take this into June, trying to figure out how to do an electronic convention, trying to figure out how to coordinate hundreds of thousands of people, thousands of delegates, then that's just not going to leave states enough time to shift gears. So I think if we focus the entire arsenal of democracy, as we do a Manhattan Project style effort, to have a completely mail-in election in November and start right now, have Congress pass some national standards for each state to have to reach regarding election security, election integrity, give outside groups the opportunity to get absentee ballots to literally every inch of the earth. Because what we'll be doing basically is trying to put together a census-sized project in about 6 months. So we spend 10 years planning for the census. We'll be trying to put that same infrastructure together to try to get the same response rates that we were trying to do with the census. And we've all seen the amount of work that's being put in by outside groups in order to do that. It is within the realm of possibility, but when you look at what's going on in Italy, for example, which today they announced that they will no longer be accepting anyone over the age of 75, or rather over the age of 80, into either the ICU. They're telling you not to call emergency services for people over the age of 80. So the ambulance will come for you. The hospital won't admit you. Doctors are saying that they leave you to God. Basically, if you're over the age of 80 years old, when you look at a continent-wide lockdown in Europe, where you have each nation rolling to do complete government lockdowns. If you look at, there's over 100 million people in Europe on lockdown right now. You have 50 million people in complete isolation for 2 months. In China, 50 million people walked in. We have no idea how many people walked out. I think it would be irresponsible to try to do in-person elections at this point. And frankly...
But Robert, let me ask you this. I mean, where is it? I mean, I want to get a couple of callers in. I want everybody to jump in and respond to you. Because, I mean, where is it? Are you saying that we should leapfrog over the nominee selection process? I mean, most Americans haven't voted on who we want the nominee to be. We don't know who the Democratic nominee really ought to be. The mainstream media have told us is Joe Biden. We don't know that yet. And then the Republicans, for their part, they're just canceling primaries. I mean, even though someone else is running against the president, okay, does he have the best shot? Probably not. But don't you think, in the name of democracy, we need to let this play on? And if we have to have the election, say, at the beginning of next year or sometime in the next year, okay. But at least the democracy would have been preserved. Robert.
That is completely understood. Let's assume that America gets to a 1% infection rate. Let's say 1% of the population gets infected.
Okay, about 3.5 million people, right?
About 3.5 million people, which will lead to a fatality estimate of anywhere between 500,000 and 1.7 million people. The Spanish flu of 1918 only killed 678,000 people, which is still more than the Civil War killed. So we'll be talking about double the number of people potentially dying if this got completely out of hand. Double the number of people dying that died in the entirety of the United States Civil War. So while we have to protect democracy, while we have to protect our institutions, we got 2 men running who've been in government, 40, 50 years each, who are both in their late 70s. Y'all get into a room Y'all figure out who needs to be the nominee, and y'all walk out with a united front. I don't care what y'all need to negotiate or how it needs to work. Y'all are grown. Make the tough decision. Pick one of the two of you, and let's move on towards the general election. Because if we keep fighting this out state by state, quite frankly, one, it's a benefit to the person who's currently in office because they'll be able to start campaigning on fixing the problem while we're still boxing out these primary fights. And secondarily, states won't have the infrastructure because this is not a 2-week problem. The doctors are saying, 8 weeks from now we'll look into it.
Well, they're also saying. Well, they're also saying this could roll out over months and months and months and months. I mean, well, hold on, Latasha, were you jumping in? I mean, everybody, Latasha.
There's a couple of things. So one, I think we've got to understand how dangerous that precedent is. That is a dangerous precedent. That is literally what, particularly for black folk in the South, that okay, we're gonna put democracy on hold. But ultimately, even when we're talking about doing this, instead of us really thinking about what is it that we can do with the kind of technology, we've got technology right now that we're moving trillions of dollars over the internet. We've got an infrastructure in place already around the census. I just completed my family census online. So we're operating as if it's not possible. And I think the problem with this is a couple of things. One, it can set a huge, terrible precedent around democracy. Who gets the vote, who doesn't get the vote, that in itself. Secondly, I think that the vote in itself is a health precaution. That ultimately I am fearful to have this man who has part of, when we're talking about the loss of lives, I agree with our attorney that there is a tremendous loss of lives, but I also know that some of that could have been prevented if we had a certain kind of leadership in office. So to prolong a process, even with him, right, that he maintains power, and those folks who have shown that they do not give a damn about poor people and black folks terrifies me. So not to have people engaged. We don't need people just to say, your party, y'all just make do with this moment. We need people to be more democratic and more engaged in the process as ever. And voting is one way that people are engaged in the process because we can hold leadership and hold folks accountable. I think it is a dangerous, dangerous precedent.
Oh, well, let me get Robert from Wisconsin. Oh, no, look, I agree, Robert, we're disagreeing with you today, but that's why we're here. Because a lot of people have a lot of thoughts about this. But let me get another Robert from Wisconsin. Robert, what's on your mind, sweetie?
Oh my, so much today. I don't know if you guys read the piece from Slate over the weekend. The guy was talking about the changes in sanitizer and how all of the rules that are set up in life are just kind of so arbitrary. Remember the same thing happened with cell phones. It's the same thing here. No, we definitely should not cancel elections. We should go forward with them. We know that this administration is inept in so many ways. What troubles me is we're talking about, November when we have elections that are tomorrow. So Dan Lipinski, an Illinois 3rd, came home, didn't even vote for the relief bill that the House voted. He came home to his district to campaign instead. He thought that was more important than the coronavirus. So I think people need to get out. They need to support people like Marie Newman. Dan Lipinski's been in office 16 years, has never passed a bill. He voted against Obamacare. He voted against the $15 minimum wage. He's the head of the pro-life caucus, tried to overturn Roe versus Wade 56 times. So no, I definitely do not think we need people like him in office. Or Joyce Beatty in Columbus, Ohio, who with her husband gentrifies the city when they don't have enough affordable public housing. No, people need to keep their eye on the ball here, and with coronavirus, it just seems people are so focused on this that there's some serious elections going on where we have a chance to change things. I would like to see people get out and actually vote for this stuff. And I'm concerned that people are afraid and they're going to stay home, and we're just going to get more of the same.
Look, I'm hearing you. I just got a message from a guy named Yusuf. Everybody, I think I know this guy. We need to push for a constitutional right to vote that sets a standard for voting in every state. So we are not allowing state by state voting. And, because it puts democracy on hold. I absolutely agree with him. We do not have. Scalia, unfortunately, Justice Scalia was right when he said, look, you do not have the explicit right to vote. It's not in the Constitution. The only people who could vote when the Republic was founded were propertied white men. So, Robert, we have to push and just make sure that your primary goes forward, okay?
Yeah, have a good day.
All right, sweetie, you take care, and thank you so much for calling. Got all these Wisconsin people. Brock, what's on your mind, hon?
I hope this election costs the Republicans for their ill-preparedness and their failure to lead in just about every level. I live in a state where they have decimated just about every institution that we have, along with unions, the public schools, the roads, you name it, they've made it worse. And for people that run on a small government platform, there's more bureaucracy and red tape and crap to go through with them in office. And at the end of the day, I have a worse outcome. So I get both, a double whammy. I have more red tape and I have a worse outcome. While other countries in the world like Estonia and Latvia are able to vote pretty much online and through write-in ballots, which the reason you wouldn't want that is participation rates are several times higher with write-in ballots and online voting if you don't all have to go someplace to do it. Also, they all have voting is a national holiday there. So everybody has off of work. So you can go to vote, and you're not trying to work your 3 jobs and vote and get the kids home and all that. So I hope this costs the Republican Party. We had 8 weeks one time. I actually had about a 6-month head start where we could have already had all of this in place. And instead of doing that, they're running around talking about a hoax, and there's some idiot on TV during deliberations wearing a gas mask who now has the hoax. Which was disingenuous, was not helpful, and cost people, it's going to cost us lots of lives, and it's hurting the economy, it's a national security crisis, all of those things. So anybody that's voting for Republicans, they're not good on health care, they're not good on the economy, they're not good on national security issues, they're not good on following the Constitution. They have no interest in having you vote if you're anybody other than rich people, which includes me. Not to mention marginalized people, ladies, Black Americans, Native. I mean, the list goes on. And the guy standing across from me at work, or the lady that I'm working with, that is voting against their best interest. That is what you are doing when you're voting for a Republican. You are cutting off your nose to spite your face. And we could have had this all under control. Now we got a 6-8 month runtime, and like the doctor said, once we get to 1%. Where everybody is infected. I think it's good that people are being proactive, but we could have been ahead of this, and now we're behind. And that's a repeated thing when it comes to Republican policy. Privately, technology-wise, we're in 2020. Publicly, or the government operates like we're in 1920. And even if we would go back to 1920, we probably still had mail-in elections then when they were doing paper ballots. I just don't know what their problem is getting on board with those ideas. They've taken Wisconsin back. The farthest back I can remember is 1985. We're all the way back there in plus when it comes to public policies and how they're distributing money and figuring out the budget and all that stuff. And it's a repeat thing in Republican states around the nation. Louisiana and Georgia are prime examples of how not to run a state. So that's what I have to say. I love the show. I'm a first-time caller. And I appreciate your message, and I'll hang up and listen to what you have to say. Later.
Oh, I'm sending you much love, Brock. You know what? We have like 4 minutes left in the segment. And those of you who can stay with me for the after show, please do that. But I want to give Dwight McKee and attorney C.K. Hoffler literally 1 minute apiece to respond to what you heard from the callers, from what you heard from Robert. Robert, you've gotten people so fired up online today. Oh, Robert Patillo, that is. Dwight McKee, 1 minute.
Was shocked if I would say that, to be honest with you. Is I heard one of your earlier that pastors today said that Jesus said the poor will be with us always. And that's because he knew that the greedy and the tyrannical was going to be with us always. And because they always need a cheap labor base, that they would make sure that the poor stayed poor and would be with us always. I'm always nervous about these crisis pretexts. Remember the Alamo?
Okay.
The alpha was a pretext for them to take Texas out of Mexico, and one attack on one little mission created a whole war from one country to another. Is pretext is the tool of the tyrannical, and crises has always been a very convenient situation for them to take advantage of people who then operate against their own interest, because under the guise of patriotism or the guise of Christianity or the guise of humanity, is that they abandon all principles, including democracy. And that's what I hear Robert saying. It is very, very, very frightening to me.
Well, Attorney C.K. Hoffa, literally, I have 1 minute left.
And I'll be very quick. I disagree with my dear colleague Robert Patella, who's brilliant. I think that we can do better in this country. We must do better. We have systems. It's just that those people who have access and who can mobilize the systems, it is not in their best interest to move our elections forward. I'm sitting here in Georgia. If we wanted to organize and have those elections take place in an orderly way, we have the capability. The problem is the person who's at the helm who can make the decision and the infrastructure is not willing to move to enable that to happen for our citizens and for our people here. And that's a travesty. But whenever there's a travesty like this, I got news for the people who are trying to prevent people from voting. They're going to vote. Something's going to happen. Because allowing the everything that people have died for in this country to just dissipate and fall apart is not going to be an option. And the grassroots organizations, churches, various organizations probably are now coalescing to try to figure out how they can ensure that their membership and the citizens have the right to vote. I believe it's feasible. We can do it and protect the health and the protect the rights of our citizens and allow them to vote.
That's right.
What Youssef said, we do need to petition and get this right to vote done and settled. But in the meantime, right now, it's going to be up to our citizens, even if we are inside and can't go out because of all of these mandates, we still have the benefit of technology and everyone has a phone. And even people who don't have power, they have a phone.
Absolutely.
That there are other solutions.
Everybody, you know what? Stay right here for the after show. But I want you to know, out of an abundance of caution, I'm going to be doing the show from home for the foreseeable. But I will be back here, so meet me on the Santita Jackson and Friends page and WCPT here tomorrow. God bless you, everybody. So people calling in. That's what they always do.
Do you have a house or two flat you'd like to sell quickly?
Stay right there, everybody.
Then call URB Chicago. Get an immediate cash offer and receive your check in as little as 7 days.
Can you check and see if Robert, if any of the panel wants to stay? I'm sorry, sweetheart. Of course, you have to wait and see if once we switch.
URBChicago.com is the area's oldest direct buyer of real estate.
I don't want Robert to take that beating without returning fire.
Stop worrying about bad tenants, high payments, or even repairs you can't afford.
Hello, Robert.
If you own a house, apartment building,
Hi, Santita, want to know, would you be interested in staying for the after show?
Well, just for a few minutes.
Just for a few minutes?
Just for a few minutes. I'm not trying to stay for
okay.
long.
I'll let him know.
Call URB Chicago.
He can stay for 30. CK just held up. I'll ask the others.
Okay.
That's
we'll call CK on stage.
Hello, Dwight.
Be on the after show.
Hi, Dwight. This is Devlin. Santita wants to know if you'd be willing to stay for a few minutes after you do the post show.
The Hal Sparks radio program.
Right,
I don't
cool.
mind
Thank
talking
you.
to
Back at
trolls. I don't mind talking
Dwight's
to
good.
Trumpers.
Okay,
I
let
really
me see
don't,
where
guys.
and look,
I'm not one of
Miss
these people
Brown.
who automatically vilifies all
Hello,
Republicans or can't talk to a conservative and understand that they believe.
Yeah, sweetie. Do you have to go?
Santita wants to know if you'd be interested in doing the
Oh,
post
no
show for a few
worries.
minutes
No,
after.
girl, you were great.
You can stay on.
I'm not going to wilt when you yell
thank you.
fake news.
Bye-bye.
Hal Sparks.
Girl, don't worry about it. Don't apologize. Next, I told you, let all that go. Oh, come on. All right, sweetie, I'll talk with you later. Okay, bye-bye. Okay, we'll lock everybody else in, and
everyone is good to go. It's
everything's
being run out of there, so if you want to go now, we can.
Including Triple T, and who's the? I have to find out who's on the first line.
WCPT, who am I speaking with?
The Trump administration's virus
Good to
task
see Veronica.
force says the effort will first focus on screening
You're welcome.
healthcare workers
Okay.
and the
And
elderly.
Veronica?
Naperville.
Her name is Veronica?
No, Ron.
Ron?
Ron.
Okay.
Ron.
Mhm.
Are you ready to go?
Oh, yeah. And you can bring them up.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, we should be good.
All right. I'm hearing them over here.
Hearing the.
Uh-huh.
How about now?
Now I'm just hearing, well, we'd have to switch out the box for what I'm hearing. Okay, great. Hey, 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 everybody. Attorney Robert Patillo, Dwight McKee, and Latasha Brown. Are you all still, are you there?
We're here.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Boy, Robert, you got us whew, in the mix today. I love it. Latasha, y'all go on. Y'all go.
Yeah, I want to say that I really understand the spirit in which Robert was bringing it. I don't want to misrepresent the way that the way that it landed with me. I literally heard what he was saying, and I heard the concern around minimizing the exposure and the health risk, and so I think that that's a valid piece to raise. My challenge is I differ with him in terms of what I think the solution, because I actually think it is a greater health risk. I am more afraid of a fascist government taking control over the lives of people in this country than I am of the coronavirus. So one might kill you faster than the other. So I think that, I just want to lift up that even in what Rob was raising, I literally understand the spirit in what he's raised, which is one, that we literally have to be mindful that this is a health crisis. We have to limit exposure in the health crisis. We've got to be diligent about that. I agree with that. What I disagree with is the suspension of democracy to do that, I think, makes us vulnerable in other ways that can actually lead to a longer-term loss of lives in a myriad of ways. So I think it's really important that we chew gum and walk at the same time, that we've got to figure out in this country, we've got to figure out, and it's not that intense, I say it all the time, corporate America can figure something out in a week. We're moving billions and billions and billions of dollars, trillions of dollars in information overnight, by the use of the internet. I don't think that it's a matter of capacity. I think we hear that. I don't even think it's a matter of capacity around figuring this out. I think it's a matter of will. And so what I think is we've got to push our elected officials right now. All of us need to be political activists. Since we're going to be sitting at home, everybody is sitting listening to the radio, they've got their computers and their cell phones, or at least a lot of folks are. We need to be avengers right now. We've got to push and say, no, you shall not, because I do think that when you look at fascism and how fascism takes control, it's in a system of fear, that it creates that those in leadership who want to maintain power, what they do is they create this environment of fear, and people respond to the fear, and when folks are fearful, they'll pretty much give up anything. They'll just say, oh, you can take everything, right? And so I think part of this process, we've got to push back on this fear and say, no, not only now do we expect democracy, but we need democracy more than ever. Secondly, I do think what Yusuf raised, that how do we're looking at the fragility of democracy in terms of people's free and fair access to the ballot, that there are more efficient and effective ways that can minimize the risk of people, that we've got to demand that this government should do as well. So I don't think it's either or. I think we've got to demand both.
Well, Dwight, Robert, somebody want to respond?
Sure. I think I understand every one of the concerns that everyone is mentioning. But we have to think about this virus the way that we would think about an alien invasion, because that's realistically what it is. It's an alien body invading us currently. And the way that we got 500 years of European colonial domination was not because they were smarter than us. It was not because they had better weapons or a better God than us. We got it because they had more diseases than us. When they colonized the New World, it wasn't the native people, the indigenous people were so dumb to just let some people come in here and take their country. 90% of the native population was wiped out by smallpox and New World diseases. So when you get on the issue of disease and pestilence in society, we have to understand that that is an instant existential threat. It is something that can literally change the course of human history. We've had entire nations wiped out. If you look at the Black Death in Europe, you had 50% of the Holy Roman Empire dissolved within a decade. You've had language groups, entire religions that were wiped off the face of the earth by disease. So this idea of still gathering tens of thousands or millions of people together in small rooms with elderly people in gymnasiums around the country and hoping that they have proper hygiene, hoping that everyone is using Purell wipes and nobody coughs on anybody. If it goes badly, which every indication is that it will, we put people in a position where we will be harming them in the short term. And let's understand what I'm saying. I'm not saying we're trying to preserve the November election by wrapping up the Democratic primary as soon as possible. Between the two people that we have, both of which will be better than the current occupant in office, work something out. Somebody's president, somebody's vice president, somebody's president, somebody's secretary of state. Whatever y'all need to work out. But if we gear up now to do a fully absentee ballot election in November, we can still maintain the November election. Because right now, if we just slap something together at the beginning of September where everybody votes by iPhone, and then Trump wins and gets 70 votes in the Senate, and then we lose the House also, we'll all know that it was rigged, that Russian hackers got in, that something happened by us trying to put it together so quickly. I'm trying to give us the most lead time possible to have the most secure and most integrity in a November election.
Dwight? Latasha, Dwight, y'all go on.
I'm sorry.
No, I am so enjoying this. I'm loving it.
Robert, one, I'm really flabbergasted that you completely dismissed what I said. Because what I said, I did not say that we can continue as we've been going. What I said, and I think that that's part of the problem, that we get caught up in a piece that we're saying democracy, and we're saying, well, people get sick with killing. Yes, that's true. But I've also seen when democracy doesn't function, I've seen how it's impacted black folks. I've seen how it is made that now disproportionately black folks are locked up in jail and left to die like they're dogs. I've seen that in Mississippi where our folks are getting killed every single day, locked up, and because folks have not taking control of the political power there, and because we've got minimum leverage at this moment there, that our people are literally being killed in jail every single day. I've seen what democracy means when our people don't have any rights, poor folks and black folks and people of color. So I agree with you. While coronavirus is tragic and can wipe out a lot of folks, I've seen how racism has wiped out and killed a lot of my people. So ultimately what I am saying is that democracy is also a safety measure for many people who are too poor, who are within the context of a racist system, that even when I'm thinking about right now, I'm in Alabama and I'm thinking about I'm at my family's home that I should have left a week ago, and I did not leave. You know why? Because I am scared that here I am in Selma, Alabama, that when the tests are given out, we're black folk, black poor people, and black working class people in a state that has a long history of not supporting black folks and folks of color, and the politics when you got a Republican governor in place that just literally killed an innocent man that you knew was innocent a week ago on death row because of this archaic racist law that they have. My point is, we cannot underestimate the damage and the danger of not seeing democracy as a tool to literally be able to protect those that literally do not have the same kind of resources that other folks have. And so I just offer that I don't think it's either or. I'm not saying that we should put people in rooms to even suggest that. Not only it minimizes what I said, but it marginalizes my thought around this. What I was offering is that just like you can come up where we can say in the fall that we can actually create this process of having an absentee ballot voting in November, I'm saying I believe that there is the technology, the technical capacity, and the intellect and the wealth in this country that if we wanted to do that, we have more than enough resources to be able to put those things in place.
And Robert,
When I think of alien invasion, what comes to my mind is an old Twilight Zone episode that I watched when I was a kid. And these aliens came in, and they were coming in to save humanity. They were bringing boats load, shiploads of people, or aliens in, and then taking the people back to their planet. And they came and they led with a book. And it was a great, big, beautiful book. And the book on the title of the book was 1001 Ways to Serve Man. 1001 Ways to Serve Man. And people got all hyped up about it. They got so excited and they saw the people as the savior. They was taking the people to the planet. They finally translated the book, 1001 Ways to Serve Man. It was a cookbook. It was...
Soylent Green? Oh! Wait a minute. Serve us up on the menu?
On the menu. And so you have to be very careful when you run in these situations where these crisis situations where somebody's coming to save you and wipe away your right under the guise of saving you because it just may be a cookbook.
Oh my word! Let me bring on Triple T. Oh, Triple T, what's on your mind, hon?
I knew immediately that's what he was referring to.
I didn't.
And it definitely reminds me, I say oftentimes that these people, now you can decide who these people are, they are very much like the aliens of Independence Day. They see resources, they come in, they ravage, and nothing else matters except their extraction of the wealth or the resource. And without getting into who these people are, because we know who they are, and we say we know who they are not. So when we have one cookbook that says you're serving your oppressor, it's going to recognize that we're the ones who told you to your oppressor. That's what we've been about. So in our situation, the failure to see the fullness of truth always leads to the demise of those who don't get to see the truth. You don't get to shine that light into all of the crevices and all of the corners of the mechanism. We have a system right now that is better than most, but it's not the best. And when the clear-minded suggestion to make it better than it already is put to the table, people walk away from it. So we've got paper ballots to verify any other type of electronic balloting that goes on, but our representatives refuse to validate that system of checks and balances. So therefore, we've never had a democracy, it's been a representative democracy. It bothers me as an instructor. You hear us continually refer to something as is, which is not, and we don't know that because of the people. We have voter suppression built into this case. It's built into this case. And no one is trying to go back again and look at that cookbook and say, what's wrong here? We're systematically locking people out left and right. We do not have an autopsy that says what's wrong with this process. And we're locking people out and we're misleading people. We don't have an accountability that says you cannot put something under lock and key for 50 years or however many years. No, everything is going to be brought into the light eventually. So we as intelligent people can insist that eventually not be put off for 50 years per se. When we look to see that whatever arm of white supremacy is running this country, it's still running the reputation of good people into the ground. It's still taking the achievements of wonderful people and blaspheming those achievements. But we're not attaching any accountability. No one has been made to pay for the catastrophes that have been brought upon this country and brought upon the world. We just keep it moving.
Okay, now bring this, Triple T, bring this to a point, because we've been talking about, okay.
Triple T. Okay, just now bring it in. It's time to cancel the U.S. presidential campaign as we know it. Yay, nay.
Okay, we believe for the system. We are people who will not cancel others' votes because of impatience. The voting process has to go forward, and we can figure out how long does it take to have everyone cast their ballot safely. We've got the intellect to do that. We're not going to rush and preclude others' abilities to vote. When it comes to the jail, the same formula will be improved, and it will be done again as well. That's what we're going to all down to.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, and not get cooked in the book. Let me go to you, Ron. Go on. Yeah.
That we haven't raised. I think that part of what we've got to also be honest about is where we are right now and how we got here. Part of the reason why we're where we are right now with this president is because the Democratic Party tried to skip over a process last year. There were millions of folks who did not vote because they were frustrated, not last year, I'm sorry, in 2016. There were millions of folks that stayed home in states that could have been won by, and some even can argue that we won, but it disengaged from the process because they did not feel the process was fair. They felt that what happened with the Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton at the convention, that they undermined, that the Democratic establishment had undermined the process, and in fact that she was able to get the nomination without any real voting opportunity for them. That is, in my opinion, that is one of the factors. It's not the only factor, but it's one of the factors of why we've got Trump in office now. What I think would be an absolute Democratic disaster is for us to not learn from our mistakes and repeat that again. That there is aside from whatever people's position is around who the candidate is, for folks to go in the room and just decide, unless that's something that Bernie just decides, and it does not seem like that's something that he's getting ready to do, that I am saying that it can create a deeper division within the voting electorate, because young people do not have the same sense of loyalty to the party as others do. So I just think that we've got to be really, really careful that what we have, that we think that have good intention, can have a major consequences. And I think what we saw in the 2016 election, that certainly can happen again, and even get worse if we have this process that we're going to suspend people's ability to be able to vote in this election cycle.
And I tell you, Youssef sent a follow-up to his text, and he said, we should speed up different ways to be able to vote and participate. Online voting, drive-through voting, mail-in voting. We have to explore all the ways to make it easier in this environment. And I think that speaks to also to what you've been saying, Robert, when you're talking about social distancing and all of that. But we're also speaking about the Republic. Let me go to Ron from Naperville. Ron, what's on your mind? Ron, honey, what's on your mind? Ron, can you hear me from Naperville? Well, then, Robert, why don't you respond to what you've been hearing? Have we not heard you, or, what are we missing each other, or do we just, we could just have difference of opinion here, and that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think we're all trying to get to the same place, and we're talking about taking different routes there. Okay. I'm not talking about taking away anyone's right to vote. We're trying to instead support and defend it. Because, as I said, if we come up with some, if Donald Trump and Mitch McConnell go into a room and come out and say, look, this is where we're going to be voting in November, none of us are going to have any belief in that system. None of us are going to have any belief in those outcomes. I think if we do nationwide paper ballots for November, then that means we all have a paper trail. We all have a receipt of how we voted. We all know what was mailed in, when it was mailed in, how it was mailed in, and if we need to do a recount, we can have a paper recount where we can match people's names and addresses to registered voters to ensure the integrity of the election. Frankly, that election will have more integrity than the last several U.S. elections, because so many times we find voting machine irregularities, the influence of Russian hackers, so on and so forth. Go back to just a regular paper ballot. That being said, we're going to need lead time to get that done. We're going to need federal help to do so. We're going to have money released to the states by the federal government to pay for that because most states are cash strapped and the U.S. government can print money. We're going to need the infrastructure put in place to get ballots to every single eligible voter in the country. We're going to have a massive public education program, which we haven't seen since the last major world war, in order to educate the public on the new method of voting. So understanding that amount of work is going to have to go into getting this done before November, and that this coronavirus is not going to clear up in the next 2 weeks and everything's going to go back to normal. What we're doing currently is the beginning. Things are going to get worse, and then we're going to settle into the new normal thereafter. That being said, I think that as a party, it's irresponsible to still be zipping and dipping around the country holding primaries in these hotspot states, instead of simply having two grown men who want to lead the free world walk into a room, and between the two of them, between Bernie and Biden, walk out with an agreement on who the nominee will be, what the agenda will be, how you will be able to merge both platforms of both campaigns together, and then coming out with a united front sooner rather than later, because the longer we wait on that, the longer that it benefits the occupant in office, and the harder that will be to ramp up a united public front to make sure we can still have an election in November, because none of us put it past the president, past Donald Trump right now in office, to a week before the election say, well, the corona outbreak has been so terrible, I've had to declare martial law, we're going to push the election off into the spring, we're going to check with our medical experts, and then we don't know what will happen after that. So instead of us delaying things now, I think we should start building a united front today that we're going to need to win in November versus two 70-plus-year-old men, because of not being able to make an agreement, not because of ego, because of differences in opinion, dragging this into the summer and dragging this into late May, early June, or even July before we have an understanding. Because if even looking,
but Robert, let me jump in here. See, to me, this is not about a disagreement between them. This is about disagreement I have on philosophy. This is not about them. You know, you become at some point. This is not about Biden. This is not about Bernie. This is about me and a position that I hold. I don't need them to go into a room and make any decision about me. I need to go to the booth or mail in my ballot. I need a process that I can trust. Let me tell you, this goes to Dwight. I have to say Robert and Ron and Triple T and Ms. Latasha Brown. Dwight is also, I'd say, he's our living, breathing Dick Gregory. Despite the positive test for COVID, there's thousands of people who were on a ship off the coast of Miami. This story just came out this morning. Or yesterday. Despite the positive test for COVID-19 from a passenger who had disembarked earlier, as I'm reading from the Miami Herald, thousands of people were allowed to leave a cruise ship in Miami on Sunday without undergoing medical screening. Did anyone just hear what I said?
Charles from Spain that said he just walked off. He got here yesterday, day before yesterday. His child came from Spain. Her son has been in Italy, Italy, which is on lockdown. He came in the airport. He was asked one question: "Are you sick?" He said no, and he was released. He was concerned. He didn't know whether to come home or not.
See, okay, Ron from Naperville. Ron?
I was on mute. Hi, I was on mute.
It's okay, sweetie. We're going to be wrapping up in the next few minutes, so I wanted to get you in.
Yeah. I love you. Thank you. So here's the thing.
I love you too. I just have to stop and say that. Go on.
Yeah. All right. So I would like to split the middle. I think there were some really good points made. We have a gigantic workforce for the census. Give them an extra stack of paper to go. Here, everyone get their paper ballots. Fill it out the way you need. A Merry Christmas. You've got your national election right on time, because they can mail them in September, whenever the hell they want. And I'm sorry, there's no way you can have hanging chads for 6 months or 3 months. They can get this mailed.
So I would say let's get the paper ballots. Let's get that all squared so the mail-in can happen. And I think that's the right answer. It will not be best. It will not be the perfect. But I'll tell you one thing. Going back to Miss Brown, this is not, having Donald for any reason, that is more of an existential crisis than any minor or major virus.
I'm not. Let me tell you, I am not a Donald Trump supporter. That having been said, some things to me override the person in office. That is the principle of the office and the institution, and we have to be institutionally minded. See, I don't look at Donald Trump and go crazy. I have to tell you, as someone who's a descendant of people who were enslaved, we've lived through craziness before in America. Insanity. It was legal to rape black women. No, no. I'm just keeping it real with you. That went to a state supreme court, and a black woman who had been raped repeatedly by her slave master, she lost. She lost. So when you come to me with that, no, I just have to say that. I have to say that. I have to say that because I can't just look at Donald Trump and go. He just doesn't move me in that way because I'm over that. What I do want is a presidency that is viable and that has integrity. Blue, no matter who, no. I need this system to have integrity, and I need us to talk about Medicare for all. See, there's some people, I think there's some real differences of opinion here, and I don't need people, with all due respect to you, Robert, and with all due respect to splitting the difference. I think we need to, the people need to speak. The people need to be able to speak. And if we need to, what they're doing in Israel, they've had election after election because they're just trying to get this right. I can appreciate that. And if what we need to do, nobody said we have to have an election in November. Or that can be changed. Slavery was changed. Women not having the right to vote was changed. But to get it right, the trains ran on time in Nazi Germany. I'm not feeling that. Efficiency has its place. What we need is what is correct and right. To me.
Wiping out the primaries. I'm saying have the November election squared away.
No, you know what? I'm just saying let's let this process, because people are not going to be able to vote over the next few days for a whole lot of and months for a whole lot of reasons. And you know what? Okay, I can live with that. But what I can't live with is someone pulling some papers out on somebody, and someone getting blackmailed into a position, and then we get jammed again. People cannot afford to get their health care. Period. Period. I'm just talking about how politics works. People cannot afford to get their health care. People are going to suppress a cough because they've got to go to work. They can't get paid sick leave. People are going to do all kinds of things just to keep on living. This is wrong. We have an opportunity right now in this primary process to get it right. I don't want to hear Vice President Biden say to me one more time, telling me about President Trump, because you know what? Because I lived with him supporting segregationists, and he has not explained that to me, and that's profoundly offensive to me. And we lost a Lincoln Republican black man who was in the U.S. Senate because he sided with segregationists, and that's unacceptable to me. Now, my thing is now, can I politically make a decision about, will you not do that again? Yeah, but you've never explained to me Anita Hill. You haven't explained to me Clarence Thomas. You sat and you knew Clarence Thomas had some problems, and you covered for him. You wanted to, no, wait a minute. I don't know how I'm supposed to cut a deal with you. I want to make a vote on you, and you know what? If I lose, if I'm in the minority, okay. I know the mainstream media has played a lot of games. I get that. But we can't turn over the republic because we're scared. When you are functioning in fear, you make a lot of bad decisions. When you marry someone, date someone, because I'm scared I'm not going to get a boyfriend, I'm scared I'm not going to get a husband, girlfriend, wife. Oh, I just did this because, I was afraid. You always regret those decisions when you function in fear. Can I get an amen from the young men in the room?
Amen.
Devin and Cortez. Okay? Come on now. Come on. Are you giving me the fist bump, Latasha?
what your pearl is so we can run you for office.
No, 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 no. You're not gonna do that to me.
Virtual fist.
Oh no, darling.
You get a virtual fist bump.
No, baby, baby,
Absolutely.
baby. You ain't gonna do that to me now. So, I just want everyone to answer. I want you all to have your say for the next few minutes, and then we're gonna get out of here. Because everybody, I'm going to all to meet me here on the Santita Jackson and Friends page and on WCPT 820. Because out of an abundance of caution, over the next for the foreseeable, I will be doing my show from home because I want to be safe, and I want everyone around here to be safe. How about that? So, but I wasn't trying to interrupt you, Ron, but I just had to say that because I'm thinking that we're beginning to make some bad decisions. I mean, and even if my guy were in the lead, I would say that because see, I don't, because I want God to lead us really. And sometimes, God makes some decisions that I don't understand, but I know that in the end it all works out for the good. So even if I don't understand it in the short term, my great grandmama Tibby told me I'll understand it by and by. So I'm good. I'm good. But when we when we when we jam up the process and make it messy, then we make a bad decision. We make a bad decision.
Ram it through. Agreed.
We don't need to ram anything through. We got time. We got time. Even if I don't make it to the election, we got time.
You do.
We got
This
time.
was fantastic. Thank you so much.
I love you, Ron.
I wasn't looking to speed up the primaries. I think the primaries need to happen. There's like 50% of us who haven't even said anything about it officially. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. And Georgia of all states, Georgia, where the Secretary of State, who was the governor, who's become the governor, he purged 1 million votes. Those were Stacey Abrams' votes. I mean, who does that? And then I'm supposed to respect you holding the office that you effectively stole? What? That's bad for the country. I'm supposed to trust you. No, that's bad for the country. Republican or Democrat, it's just wrong. It's just wrong.
yeah, I would talk about, we talk about those who've served. Let's take a look at the Congress and Senate and see who are vets, who are Peace Corps, AmeriCorps, any kind of corps, did any public service other than get a handout from some PAC. There's very few vets in Congress and Senate now. And they're talking about service above self and all that other nonsense, yet they are rubbish. So we need to fix the rubbish, and we need to hold people to proper ideals. And that's why I love Bernie. That's why I loved all our candidates. Every one of them said things that were radically different than what was happening on the other side of the house. So, I mean, I'm excited, and it's really frustrating me that our crappy preparedness, and we know why, has put us in this state of freaked out. We lost 80,000 people to the flu last year, and we didn't give a damn. Literally. Why? But now we got a few people who may die, and I'm not trying to knock COVID.
No,
it is significantly
I understand that.
the average virus there. Yeah, but still,
No,
we don't do it.
We're playing a lot of games here. Ron, we're playing a lot of games here, and we, the thing is, we need to stop. We need to stop this because you know what? When they decide that someone who didn't really kill somebody, they put them on death row, and then you have states of execution. They have a problem. We are very efficient at killing folks. So we need to stop it. I'm just saying, just stop. Yeah, if they want to test everybody in America because they can test you for everything. If they want to do that, they want to give you a chip, they can do it. You can test me for COVID-19. You can do that if that's what you want to do. So, I'm going to get some closing thoughts from everybody. Robert Patillo, I'm sending you much love, Ron. Robert Patillo, I want you to respond because I'm glad that we can disagree without being disagreeable. Even if Latasha, because I'm holding her back in cyberspace, she wants to jump through this phone line and wrap her lovely hands around your neck and squeeze real hard.
him, everybody. She said she's going to give him a hug. Go on, Robert.
Mr. Like I said, we're all trying to get to the same place. We all have the same ultimate goal. It's just a question of how we get there. And I think that what we can't do from our side of the aisle is was not turn into the Republicans that we were just we've been criticizing, because they were the ones who were taking this outbreak, this pandemic lightly. When you had Trump calling it a hoax, when you had Matt Gaetz. Just a quick story on that. Matt Gaetz wore the mask on the floor of the House of Representatives. Later that night, he was on Fox. At that time, when he wore the gas mask, he had already been exposed to coronavirus. I happened to see him in the green room at Fox and almost shook his hand. I have a wife at home who has multiple sclerosis and a immune system. If I had shaken Matt Gaetz' hands, I would have had to be quarantined for my wife for 14 days, bare minimum. Or worse, I could have gotten infected with that coronavirus and taken it home to her and potentially affected her health. So on these virus and pandemic issues, I take them, maybe I have a certain sensitivity about it, but I don't think we can take lightly. I don't think it's something where we can say there's other issues, because guess who's going to be, when we talk about potentially 1.7 million people dying, it's not going to be Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson. It's not going to be Rudy Gobert, who plays for the Jazz, or Donovan Mitchell. It's going to be poor black and brown folks who don't have access to the proper treatment techniques, who more than likely live in more crowded locations in urban areas, will have more interactions with each other, will have less access to sanitation. And so for those reasons, I think we have to take this, as I said, as an alien invasion moment where we put all hands on deck. Look, FDR did 4 terms in office because of the Great Depressions and World Wars. And you don't think Donald Trump is going to try to do that because of coronavirus, then you don't know Donald Trump. So we have to start gearing up now to make sure we can maintain the integrity of the November election. I think as long as we're all on that page, how we will get there while maintaining public health is the route we should go.
Okay, I hear you, but I think that you're on the front lines with your wife in a private health struggle, and some of us don't have to live with something like that from day to day, and so we do appreciate that. We do. Even if we disagree on the route, we certainly do understand that, appreciate that, and are praying for your wife and for you and your wife, because to be a caregiver, that is truly doing God's work, really. And she's doing God's teaching, because when we're dealing with relatives and people who we love who are struggling, they're teaching us something too: patience, love, kindness, understanding. Thank you so much, Robert Patillo. Latasha Brown, go girl. Now send him that hug, girl. Give him that hug. Come on, give it to him.
I do. I also want to just lift up you, Robert, you and your wife. I understand, and I understand the anxiety. I'm experiencing it in some ways myself right now because of the elders in my family who raised me, and for the most part of the woman who raised me was my aunt and mother. She and my uncle have he has a very compromised system. So I am frightened to death in this moment. But I just want to offer sending you some love and lifting you up, and thank you for the work that you're doing to continue to share that love with your wife and be a demonstration of that. I think that it's and I also agree with your comment around we can't become like the Republicans. And I agree with that, which is why I am so adamant about the protection of democracy, that I am so adamant about that we don't suspend democracy and make our communities even that much more vulnerable than they already are. As one of the callers said, we've never actually experienced the perfection of democracy and the idealism that the American Constitution talks about. So I'll just lift by saying, the only thing that comes to mind to me right now to say is just keep hope alive.
How about that? Dwight McKee?
Let me add my supervision class to Robert. It gives me more of a context why he took that position than I had before. Having said that, I think the only thing that makes this disease so different is it's so democratic. and they had not found a way, figured out a way to shield the rich from the disease. And so that's what makes it a crisis, is that it only becomes a crisis if it's a crisis for them. Once you get past the situation, is you'll find that more poor people die from other diseases and other situations and having no health care than this virus has killed combined. And the real danger to me of a guy like Biden last night is he kept saying, no, we don't need to deal with all of the crises of poor people. What we need to deal with is this particular crisis because it involves more than poor people. And if we ever get to a poor people crisis, it's fine. But that's not our priority. Our priority is this disease right now till we figure it out, till we learn how to protect the worthy from it. And then when, we get time and get a little more resources, we can go and kind of focus on those crises that affect the poor. It's a real dangerous situation to me. I really do think that, and again, Robert, no disrespect, I really understand exactly what you're saying. But I really do, based on history, always maintain the option to question the reality of any situation. I'm not saying this disease is not real, but I'm saying that even if it is real, it also becomes exploitable. We watched what Hitler did with the fire at the bomb at the
Reichstag, right?
Yes, ma'am. He used it as a pretext to go from prime minister to Fuhrer because he manufactured the crisis, exploited the crisis, and took over the government. And I have that fear of this country, having seen it happen before. Remember the Alamo.
Well, everybody, I want to thank you for being with us today. It's Robert Patillo, Attorney Robert Patillo, Dwight McKee, Latasha Brown, Triple T, Devin, Nick is on the other side, Cortez, and Bedalia, Lady B, and Mateo, and all the people who pulled this show together. I mean, and my panels you all are the best because you really give us a broad array of thought and you make us think. And even whether we agree or disagree, I appreciate the fact that you all do it in a respectful way, and I appreciate that you are doing it in the spirit of really trying to move us forward and make us better people and make us a better community, make us a better nation, make us a better world. And so I want to thank you for that today. I am praying we are all sending love and prayers to everybody who might be living under the spirit of fear today, because the way we're living as Americans in particular, because we've had so many blessings, so much space, many of us are very afraid today. And you can see it when you're in the stores. I went to one of the stores yesterday, because I hopped around to different stores. And I said, there's no toilet tissue. And the young lady who was the cashier said to me, oh, ma'am, yes, there's toilet tissue, but it's behind the counter. Because we've been having physical fights in the store. Now, mind you, this store was in a very, 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 in one of the highest zip codes, one of the highest earning zip codes in the city of Chicago. And these people are behaving this way. Not that people with money and privilege behave any better than anyone else. Please, they run the country, and look at the mess that we're in. So that is not what I'm saying. What I am saying, though, although they judge everybody else, they judge us for our behavior. And judge us if we're not going to get $1.5 trillion in stimulus. We're not going to get that. I'm hoping today that everybody that you all, I'm with you, Latasha Brown, and you, Attorney Patillo, and you, Dwight McKee, Triple T, Ron, and everybody else, take care of yourselves. And so I'm going to continue to bring on Dr. Arnold and other healthcare professionals and ministers and just people who care, so that you know that we can get through anything. We can get through this. We can push our government to make sure that we get testing kits. Everybody deserves that. Red, yellow, black, brown, and white, rich and poor, and everybody in between and outside of that. We deserve that. And we have to push to make that happen. We need to make sure that everybody is well. I think that's why Some of us, like myself, are pushing for Medicare for all, a universal single payer system. Absolutely. Because health care is your right, it is not a privilege. We've got to change our thinking. Change it. Change it. We are all a step away from being special needs. It could happen to anybody at any time. I've known a lot of people who've had strokes who've never come back. I know some people who've had strokes who've come back. Anything can happen to you. You can walk in the middle of the street. Anything can happen to you. And anything can happen to our society. We're watching it happen today. Chicago is effectively closed down. So is Paris. So is the country of Italy. And our country will be too in a minute. Because you heard Dr. Anthony Fauci say, I would feel very comfortable if we had social distancing, which means we can't be with each other. But Dr. Damon Arnold did say in the last hour, just because we are distant from each other doesn't mean we need to be away from each other. So check on everybody. Call people. Let's take this opportunity to really be in touch. Remember the old commercial, reach out and touch someone? They're young men, Latasha and Robert and Dwight. They don't remember this commercial. But it was reach out, girl, I'm going all the way back. These kids were not even born in the 80s. They were not. Were you all born in the 90s? No.
Yes.
In late 90s, weren't you?
Early 90s.
Early 90s, what?
I believe I'm the same age as you, actually.
No, you're 22, 23.
26.
You're 26. Ooh, wow.
I'm 20.
Honey, everybody on here's got an AARP card. I'm not sure about Robert, but I know I got mine July 17. What? So what I'm saying to all y'all is that it's all good. I love you. I love you, and I'm so glad that we love each other. And I'm so glad that when I reach out to you, Robert, Dwight, and Latasha, no matter where you are, you make time for the Santita Jackson Show. And you all, you're part of my permanent panel, right? I think I sent Robert a text at 2 o'clock this morning. I said, oh, I forgot because I'd fallen asleep. I didn't let you know. He said, I was expecting it. Thank you for I thank you for operating with me in that spirit. And please, more than that, thank your wife. Oh my gosh. Thank her. Thank her for sharing you with us. I mean, because that's one of the things my mother said, my part of my husband that belongs to me, but I know he was born to be part of the world, to serve the world. And I want to thank you, Robert, Dwight, and Latasha for all of that. And everybody who's listening to us over here. Please take care of yourselves today and relax. We're going to get through this. And more than that, pray. Pray. Hold on to your faith. That's all my father asked me to do when I went away to college, Latasha. He said one more thing as I was on my way out the door. Just one more thing. He said, Daddy wants you to find a church. I said, okay, because I went to church every Sunday. He said, no, baby, I need you to hear me. The storms of life come, and they come without warning. Whoo, Lord, didn't this come without warning? He said, but if your soul is anchored in the Lord, you will be fine. If you become unmoored from God, you will surely drift away. And I would not have done my job. So just please do that and get your prayer life together. He didn't ask me to study. He didn't ask me to go to class. He asked me to get close to God. And even if you are atheist or agnostic or animist or whatever it is, know that there's something greater than you that's keeping us here and that's keeping us upright. So please, let's love each other. Maybe we can learn that. When someone is sneezing, maybe you need to step away, but maybe you need to pray for them. Don't look at them in fear and make them feel like they're lepers. They belong on this earth too. Okay? So I love you, everybody. I love you, Latasha. I love you, Dwight. I love you, Robert. I love you all. I love you, Lorraine and Chapearl and Deborah and Francis and Michael. Love you, girls. She said, I don't know. I think I got my war paint on really well today. She said I looked especially beautiful. I said, I don't know what it is. I think I got my makeup right finally, right? I don't know. I don't know. War paint makeup is a wonderful thing. I love you, everybody. I will see you tomorrow. I love you.
Take care.
I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. And everybody, remember, get out and vote. Get out and vote.